Good evening, everybody. If we can please stand for the pledge. Thank you, everyone. So we have a relatively long agenda tonight, so we're going to try to move things along. First, Patty, can you do the roll call?
Mayor Marciano.
Here.
Vice Mayor Litt. Councilmember Marino. Here. Councilmember Woods.
Here, ma'am.
Councilmember Lane.
Here. Thank you. Is there any additions, deletions, or modifications?
No, sir.
Thank you. So Rochelle is not here tonight. She did ask that I make a comment on her behalf. She's graduating from Leadership Palm Beach County tonight. It's a very important event for her. It's a one-year process. We now have 2 council members that are graduates of Leadership Palm Beach County, and I'm really proud of her and for Maria to have gone through the process. It helps us as a city have your elected officials know what's happening, not just within the borders, but also throughout the county. So Rochelle is not here tonight, but congratulate her next time you see her. Announcements and presentations, please. Item A. Chief, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. For the record, Chief Clint Shannon from Palm Beach Gardens Police Department. If I could have Officer Francine O'Brien please join me up here. Wanted to inform the Mayor and Council about a very prestigious award that Officer O'Brien recently received. Officer Francine O'Brien was named the 2018 Officer of the Year by the Palm Beach County Association of Chiefs of Police, which is, she was selected from all the departments throughout Palm Beach County, and we're extremely proud of her. Tell you a little bit about some of the work, about Francine and some of the work that she does for us. Officer Francine O'Brien's been with the Palm Beach Gardens Police Department since 2014. She consistently displays outstanding service and goes above and beyond. One such example in 2018 is how she encountered an elderly woman who experienced a tragic loss of a family member. The woman was extremely distraught, and Officer O'Brien made it a point to come back and check on this woman on a weekly basis. I would have loved to read the email that I received from her, because it was amazing the difference she made in this woman's life. Also, Officer O'Brien was appointed as a field training officer, and she helped mentor several new officers in 2018. While training a new officer, she was dispatched to a call involving multiple vessel burglaries. She developed leads and took over the course of 3 days. She conducted interviews, processed evidence, and did an extensive investigation, which led to the arrest of 2 suspects who were charged with 10 different boat burglaries. On another occasion, Officer O'Brien located 2 suspects that fled from the mall after taking videos and pictures of young teens in dressing rooms. After a thorough investigation by Officer O'Brien, the suspect was charged with several counts of video voyeurism. She also assisted in the apprehension of a residential burglary suspect, and after conducting interviews, obtained a confession that led to the subject subsequently being sentenced to 3 years in prison for that crime. She completed several community-oriented policing projects in 2018, including assisting a community with proper signage and assisting a pregnant woman in obtaining a car seat. So it kind of displays her versatility in the job that she does. Officer O'Brien also serves in the United States Navy, and she was deployed overseas for approximately 2 months in 2018. She was the senior enlisted leader for Special Operations Command in Africa and served as a supervisor of all logistics and training for all enlisted members of her unit. She's one of the lead intel analysts and in the Combined Maritime Command, and has trained numerous foreign military police officers on various law enforcement topics. We are extremely proud of Officer O'Brien's accomplishments, and we congratulate on her recognition from the Palm Beach County Association of Chiefs of Police, and also from our department as Officer of the Year for 2018.
Thank you, Officer O'Brien, for making our city proud. Next presentation, Cheryl.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Cheryl Stewart, Human Resource Administrator, and it is with great pleasure that I'm here tonight to share with you that the city's negotiating team and representatives of the Police Benevolent Association successfully reached a tentative agreement by the end of the second collective bargaining session on May 3rd. The union voted for complete ratification on May 24th. The primary issues that were addressed were primarily concerning salaries and pension. The new 3-year contract is effective October 1st, 2019, and through September 30th of 2022. It provides for salary adjustments using the same process that we have used in prior years and with other employee groups by adjusting salary range minimums and maximums to keep the city's positions and salaries in line with the top 3 comparable police agencies in Palm Beach County based upon current market data. The total cost of the salary increases, which includes a 6% wage increase each of the 3 years of the contract, is about $2.84 million. And with other salaries and with other assignment pays and benefits, including FICA and pension, it's close to $2.93 million over the 3 years. With respect to pension, the benefit multiplier is increased from 2.75% to 3% effective 10/1 moving forward, and the normal retirement age is changed from 55 to 52, or 20 years regardless of age. And so under consent, Resolution 41 will be there for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. Before we finalize, I know there's some officers in the audience, if anyone had any comment that they wanted to make prior to moving to consent.
Good evening, Council, City Manager, Chiefs, Chief Shannon, Assistant Chief Pape. We'd just like to thank everyone.
Name and address for the record, please.
Okay.
I know
yes,
who
sir.
you are, but.
No problem. My name is Dorian Hawkins. I live in Lake Park, but I'm an employee with the Palm Beach Gardens Police Department and also a PBA rep. And on behalf of the PBA, the police officers and emergency communications operators, we'd just like to thank everyone for their support. Cheryl Stewart and her team, we really appreciate how we were able to get the negotiation session wrapped up as quickly as we did, and we're very pleased with the contract. Mr. Ferris, we really appreciate everything you've done for us thus far and continue to do for the city. We're excited about the future, and we look forward to continue to support the city in its endeavors to grow and do great things. So we thank you. We appreciate it.
Mark, I've got a comment.
Dorian, you're not done. Just stay there.
Matthew, do you have a comment?
Sure.
Okay.
I think that you get what you pay for. And we have a spectacular police department. I am so proud of our officers and the work that you do. I've been talking to the union. They've advised me, as you have, that the officers are happy with this contract, and based upon that, I will definitely vote for it. If I can ever be of service, please call me. And finally, thank you for protecting my family and for protecting me.
You're welcome,
Thank you.
sir. Welcome.
And one last thing I do want to mention. The department is led by someone who's truly spectacular. This chief is doing a wonderful job. I know that he's respected by the force. I know that he's respected in the community, and he's certainly respected by us. So you have an exceptional leader, and I am privileged to have the opportunity to work alongside of him.
Thank you.
Dorian, I had a question.
Yes, sir.
You guys took a vote on this contract before it came back to the city, correct?
Yes, we did.
What was the vote?
It was unanimous, 91 votes to 0 dissents.
Okay, good enough. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Would you like to make a quick comment?
I just want to say thank you. Thank you for all you do. And I know all of you do extracurricular activity that has nothing to do with the police department, and you won some awards, I know that. So just thank you for being here. Thank you for what you do.
Yeah, a strong community has so many parts to it, and obviously a strong police force and first responders is a big part of that. So thank you for that. And I'm also very excited to see how quickly this negotiation occurred, which means that people were willing to listen and talk and come up with a solution that made everybody happy, and that's the way it's supposed to be, so thank you. Next announcement or presentation will be our Operation Sister City. David?
Good evening, Council. For the record, David Reyes, Community Services Administrator. And with me here tonight is Chris Evers. He's the past president of the American Public Works Association for the Florida chapter. Chris also founded the Florida Public Works Directors Roundtable, which now has been adopted by the National American Public Works Association. He was also intimately involved with the Operation Sister City, which we all very familiar with. So Chris is here tonight to present our City Council with an award that we will be receiving from the American Public Works Association. So I'd like to welcome Chris to the podium.
Good evening. My name is Chris Evers. I'm the past president of the American Public Works Association Florida chapter. On October 10th, Hurricane Michael, a Category 5 storm, made landfall just east of Panama City with devastating effect, as you all know. Beat up the Emerald Coast very badly. Living up to the motto, though, first to respond, last to leave, public works professionals sprang into action. 2 phone calls started an effort that made an immediate impact and generated positive and lasting relief for the victims of Hurricane Michael. A few days after landfall, I reached out to Bay County Public Works Director Keith Bryant, and that same day, in kind of weird twist of fate, I get a phone call from David Reyes. And from there, it really began a tremendous effort that involved a lot of you in this room, a lot of employees of Palm Beach Gardens, Christ Fellowship, APWA, and many others, and that was how Operation Sister City was born. And many of you know the rest. So it is with much pride, personally, and from the American Public Works Association Florida chapter, that I present these 2 awards, and I'm going to read them to you. And I'm just so excited to do this. First, as 2, well, 1 wasn't enough. So the first one was the Florida Chapter Award of Excellence, and this award is given to either cities, agencies, counties, companies who made really just an over-the-top effort for public works and supporting public works professionals. And then the second award is called the 2019 Technical and Management Innovation Award. And Operation Sister City was considered an innovation in the way it was structured, and I'm really excited to announce that one of the lasting legacies is going to be Operation Sister City. So Palm Beach Gardens and the work of a lot of you folks here started something that we're going to be adopting with every community in Florida. So cities, counties around the state, and we just started another hurricane season, unfortunately, but we're going to be adopting this type of a model to help the folks who are struggling with hurricane impact. So that's really exciting. So just to invite you guys to come be presented your awards here. And one more thing, just to recognize one more thing, The the Florida Department of Emergency Management has now invited the American Public Works Association to hold a seat at the state EOC. And so it's very exciting for Public Works to be at that table to recognize his role in making much of this happen and just his ferocious passion to help his fellow Public Works folks. I wanted to present one more thing. And this has a much more Public Works look to it. And this is street sign. And this is the 2019 Community Services Administrator of the Year Award for City, and that's given to David Reyes, City of Palm Beach Gardens. David.
Well, thank you for the presentation. This city did some remarkable things last year, and the fact that they went up to the Panhandle more than once. When my wife and I went to the Green Market, we walked over and put our goods in the bin, and it was so full of stuff. And it's, we are sitting up here, and we really didn't do much except thank David and his team. But the entire staff of this city really just stepped up, and for all of the quiet people in the back that really don't get the attention and the accolades. David's kind of quiet and a little shy back there, but boy, the city staff really stepped up and did wonderful things for another community, and that's what we do. So thank you very much, David, and thank you to the entire staff for everything you did to make you and us look really good. But you did some wonderful things for some people that really needed help, and that was really the bottom line. So thank you. All right, next presentation, item D, Matt Forrest, Ballard Partners for the legislative summary.
Good evening. For the record, Matt Forrest with Ballard Partners. It's a pleasure to be with you guys this evening. It's a pleasure to be back in Palm Beach County. It's a pleasure to be back from the front. So I've returned from Tallahassee. The session is over. And tonight I just wanted to really quickly, I know you have a lot of stuff on your agenda, and I could be up here for hours giving you the play-by-play for the session. Nobody wants to hear any of that. So I'll give you some highlights. Most notably, though, you did see the memo that has more details on it. And just like the memo is probably not the best format, this 5 or 10 minutes at the podium is really not the format for a deep dive in any of these bills or legislation we're going to discuss. So feel free to reach out to the staff, reach out to me. I'm more than happy to meet with you. I do live locally and more than happy to take some time and we can dive into any of the legislation. Wanted to give you some highlights of what happened in 2019, but also really get you thinking already for 2020 because as much as we always think of what happened this year and what we're going to do next year in Tallahassee, that's really not the best way to think of it time frame. Quick look at the calendar today, and it kind of made me even get a little teary-eyed at my desk. We are 34 days past the end of the 2019 session, and the way the calendar falls and the way the committee weeks have already been announced, we are 101 days before the start of the next committee meeting that begins the next 2020 session. So it's really not a full year off. It's also not a full year to get things done. So this is also to get the wheels turning as we go into the 2020 session. We did wrap up with very few bills passing that you would actually be surprised based on the amount of alerts and emails and notices that you received. There was somewhere around 3,500 bills filed, only 196 passed, so a little 5.4% of bills make it across the line. The life expectancy of a piece of bill, of legislation, is not really good. So always keep that in mind as we start going forward. And of course, the governor still hasn't weighed in on many of those pieces of legislation. There's still over 100 bills that have not been sent to him to sign. As of today, he has already vetoed 2 of those bills. So I'm sure the number of what bills pass will already go down considerably. Most notably of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, we always go up there pushing and looking for allocations and appropriations we can draw back down to the city. We work tirelessly with your staff, with Alicia and many of the department heads to put together projects that we think are viable for the state to allocate funds to. We were successful again this year, and so far, in the current budget that will be eventually going to the governor, there's a project in for Palm Beach Gardens that will bring down $300,000 for more stormwater infrastructure improvements in the city. This is another phase of a project we've been successful on the few years. So the big hurdle is getting it in the budget. You get it in the House, you get it in the Senate, you finally get it approved, you get it across, and there's one critical last step, and that is getting it across the governor's desk. The governor does have line item veto power. He can go through the entire budget, about 430 pages, and go, nope, just that one I want out. Hopefully he doesn't do that to Palm Beach Gardens. I'm continuing to advocate so that he does not. The budget has not been sent to the governor yet, so also the clock is not ticking on that. We do expect it to happen, though, probably in the next few days, within the next week or so. The fiscal year starts July 1, so we know what will happen in the next few weeks, so we'll have time to go forward for that. Notably on some legislation, again, this would be the area where taking a deep dive would suck up a lot of time. Notable bills that died. Vacation rental legislation. This is that constant battle between local governments and vacation rentals, and which way the pendulum's going to swing, whether the locals will have more control or whether vacation rentals will have more discretion on where they go. Status quo. Nothing changed. There was legislation in the House that was moving. Senate bill never took it up. That legislation is dead again for this year. There was also two very, very large preemption bills that I'm sure you heard a lot about, HB 3 and HB 1299. These were very broad preemption bills that took away a lot of local government abilities and powers, did not move out through the Senate. Very few even made it out of the House, so those bills all died. Noticeably, though, there were some bills that did pass that will have an impact on local governments. There was CRA legislation that passed, nowhere near as dramatic as it was when it got filed. Regulations on scooters passed. These electric scooters you see on the sidewalks and on the streets. Good news, did not preempt the cities. Cities do have full discretion whether they want to allow these things or not. Tree trimming legislation also did pass, as long as you get an arborist that says the tree is in danger of falling on your house. And there are a couple large bills that we're still waiting to see whether the governor will sign, notably the Growth Management Bill, 7103, and 5G legislation, SB 1000. Two significant bills that I wanted to bring to your attention. Obviously, you probably have heard about these already. They've been signed or not signed by the governor. Firefighter cancer coverage. It's been around for several years. That did pass and has already been signed. I'm sure your HR staff and the rest of your city administrator staff are already dealing with what that will mean to your future benefits. The big issue of the day in Tallahassee, believe it or not, plastic straw preemptions. Several pieces of legislation, either banning local governments from preempting straws or allowing local governments to preempt them. It was a heavily debated issue. In the end, it passed the legislature, but it's actually one of the very first, if not the first, bill the governor vetoed. And I think it's of note for the cities to realize exactly why he vetoed it, and it's really clear as day in his veto letter. He said a number of Florida municipalities have already preempted straws. And I think there's a couple key lines that I want to read to you that hopefully gives you guys some hope when you're looking at all the legislation sometimes and the battle of preemptions and the value for home rule at the state level. The governor said, these measures have not, so far as I can tell, frustrated any state policy or harmed the state's interests. He went on to say, under these circumstances, the state should simply allow local communities to address this issue through the political process. Citizens who oppose plastic straw ordinances can seek recourse by electing people who share their views, which is really the core of what we usually argue for when it comes to home rule, that if there's an issue, it's best decided by the city councils that are right in front of the people, and guess what? If you change your mind a week later, it's much easier for you five to change your mind a week later and put the straws back in place. So hopefully that's a sign of things to come with the governor and where he'll weigh in on any kind of local preemptions that get to his desk. That wraps up the 2019 session. Like I said, the next session is right around the corner. We'll begin in September with the first committee week. Then there's back-to-back committee weeks in October, back-to-back in November, little one in December. The official session starts January 14th, and you can expect, even though I'm not in charge of it, I'm sure there'll be Palm Beach County Day, probably January 15th. So if you want to mark your calendars and plan accordingly. Possible issues that will be back. I get this question all the time. Vacation rentals will obviously be back. I don't see that going anywhere. It didn't pass again this year. It was status quo, so it'll be back. I think there'll be more transparency measures. As much as the city of Palm Beach Gardens is an amazingly well-run city, all it takes is one incident in one city, and all of a sudden the legislature thinks they need to go in and try to fix all the problems with one piece of legislation. Those are probably the two biggest things that I think will be coming back from a local government perspective. And then, of course, we'll be seeking to draw down funds from any projects we work with your staff. It's always a pleasure working with your staff. We talk quite a lot. No city is quite as adept at making me aware of what issues are important to them and what issues are on high alert. Alicia does a great job of keeping me informed, and then, of course, drawing the information that she needs from all the various department heads. So as your guy on the front lines, I appreciate everything you guys do to give me the tools that I can to accomplish your needs. And with that, I'll answer any questions you may have or yield to the next issue.
Maria?
Vegetable gardens.
Vegetable gardens did pass.
I know. What can we do about that?
Well, I think we talked about it in Tallahassee. So there is legislation that now, and again, this would be one of those, look at the letter of the law to see what it now says. It doesn't say that all of your city ordinances and any of your landscaping requirements are now void. It simply says you also can grow lettuce in your front yard if you so desire.
Any other
I'm not even going to comment.
Matthew, Carl, do you have any questions or comments? Ron, do you want plastic straw?
I just wanted to say thank you to Matt. We're not the easiest people in the world to work with because we're always on his case about pushing him for this and pushing him for that. But at the same time, he brings us an awful lot of information and keeps us heads up on things that we don't even know about. And Matt and his contacts and influences in Tallahassee is always looking for the advantage for the city of Palm Beach Gardens because we're always in his face. And I appreciate your patience with us, but we're very serious and about what we do, and we're kind of passionate about preemption. And this has been a difficult year on the preemption side of things, and so you've been patient with us and extremely helpful and beneficial, and we hope the governor signs that $300,000 appropriation, and you did that for us. I appreciate that.
My pleasure.
Thanks, Matt. I've known you for a long, long time when you had more hair too,
I did.
but you've always been extremely professional and very knowledgeable. So thank you for your work with the city and the other municipalities too.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks. All right. Item E: update on small cell and micro antennas within the city's right of way. Todd Engel.
Good evening, Council. Todd Engel, City Engineer for the record. I'm here to update you on an old piece of legislation from 2017, House Bill 687 that was passed, which allowed small cell and micro cells within state, county, and other rights-of-way, including local municipalities. This is for the race for 5G, and what it does is it has a lot of smaller towers instead of little larger towers throughout the area. So we adopted Ordinance 2017 to limit what we could from the House bill. And what we did is we defined the small cellular and microcell devices. We limited the height, so the height is limited to 50 feet. However, if there's an existing utility pole within 500 feet, that height is limited to the height of the utility pole. We also try to promote co-location, but we haven't been able to do that because of the size of the actual antennas and the wind loading, because they have to meet hurricane standards. So we haven't been able to do the co-location, so they have been independently mounted. To date, we have not had one installed in the city. However, we received 12 applications, and actually we received another one today, so we have 13 applications on the books. This map represents where they fall within the city. The yellow is AT&T, the blue is Verizon, and the red is Hotwire. We have released 2 permits to date. AT&T has not had any release. They have a lot to go, but they owe us some money on a tower lease, so we're holding that until we receive those funds. If you look at the map, it appears that everything's around the core part of our city where our towers are needed, these small cell towers. And what that means is they will be immediately adjacent to residential areas. So we do require a depiction of what they look like in the permit submittal. So what you have here is the Turnberry community just to the north of us. This is a tower off a road that we own that will be immediately adjacent to a residential area. This is Holly Drive and Military Trail, and this is Riverside Drive in the Corporate Center. This is another one located off Buttercup Drive in the core part of our community. We do try to limit this and put them in between homes or within easements or other rights-of-way that we can find. And we're allowed to do that to the extent we can, but we really cannot limit where they put these towers. Just we try to limit the damage from where they're going. Some of the things we do find along the way, the towers are just not the towers. They do require infrastructure, so they have to put infrastructure in the ground and run to the larger towers or to utility boxes. Markers are required, so they did install some above-ground markers. I'm sure you guys got some complaints on this particular one. We had this one removed, and now it is attached to the box, so we require that all markers be at grade instead of above-grade markers. And then we also changed our right-of-way permit to limit certain things they can do. Anything that we find that's out of the ordinary or creates a problem that we can limit it, we install it in the general conditions of a permit. And we also have the ability that if we do an improvement within that area, they have to relocate that tower at their own expense. So there is a caveat that if we were doing something in that particular area, they have to relocate at their own expense. So with that, if you guys have any questions?
I don't have any questions. Thank you for the update, and I guess as we go forward, if there's any other updates to be had on where these applications are coming, we'll know about them, or you'll know about them before we do, but thank you. All right. So comments from the public, I did have 3 cards, but each of them were in relation to ordinances, Ordinance 6 and Ordinance 10, so we'll read those, or we'll offer time for the member of the public to read them at that time. In the meantime, next up is consent agenda. Can I have a motion?
I move that we adopt the consent agenda.
I second.
Okay. Any discussion?
No discussion.
All right. Let's have a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4-0. Next, we're going to go over the public hearings. Let me just read. Tonight, we're holding quasi-judicial hearings on the following cases. Ordinance 6, 2019, second reading and adoption, Costco wholesale rezone. Resolution 20, 2019, Costco wholesale site plan. Ordinance 7, 2019, second reading and adoption, Palm Beach County tax collector. Resolution 21, 2019, Palm Beach County tax collector. Ordinance 8, 2019, first reading, Ballin Isles East out parcel. Ordinance 10, 2019, first reading, City Center. Ordinance 11, 2019, first reading, rezoning for City Center planned unit development. Resolution 26, 2019, downtown at the Gardens. Resolution 27, 2019, downtown at the Gardens. Resolution 30, 2019, art in public places for PGA Station planned unit development. And Resolution 38, 2019, Avenir Clubhouse. Y'all ready for this? This means that the City Council is required by law to base its decision on the evidence contained in the record of these proceedings, which consist of the testimony at the hearing, the materials which are in the official city file on this application, and any documents presented during this hearing. The Council is also required by law to allow cross-examination of any witness who testify tonight. Cross-examination may occur after the staff, the applicant, and other participants have made their presentations and will be permitted in the order of the witness's appearance. It is necessary that anyone who testifies at the hearing remain until the conclusion of the hearing in order to be able to respond to any questions. If you plan to testify this evening or wish to offer written comments, please fill out a card and give it to the city clerk. The city clerk will now swear in all persons who intend to offer testimony this evening on any of these cases.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Thank you. Ordinance 5, 2019. Can the clerk read the title, please?
Ordinance 5, 2019, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, amending Chapter 78, Land Development, at Section 78-159 by amending Table 21, Permitted, Conditional, and Prohibited Use Chart to add new note J74 to Table 21 in order to add membership club, retail, or wholesale to the list of conditional uses in the Commercial General CG1 zoning district, amending Section 78-221 PJ Boulevard Corridor Overlay by repealing and readopting same as revised, to add membership club, retail, or wholesale to the list of prohibited uses, and further amending Chapter 78 at Section 78-751 definitions by adding the new definitions fuel center and membership club, retail or wholesale, providing that each and every other section and subsection of Chapter 78 land development shall remain in full force and effect as previously adopted, providing a conflicts clause, a severability clause, and authority to codify, providing an effective date and for other purposes.
Thank you. We'll open the hearing. Has anything changed since the last reading?
No changes.
No changes? So does anyone want a presentation?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, the second reading of Ordinance 5 has no changes since first reading, which was the Land Development Regulations Text Amendment. Staff would like to make a very brief presentation, although there have not been changes as well on Ordinance 6 due to some recent concerns that we have received.
Okay, would you like to do that now?
We would like to do it as part of Ordinance 6.
Okay. So regarding ordinance 5, if we have no other presentation and no public comment cards, we're going to close the hearing. Can I get a motion and a second to approve?
I'll make a motion to pass ordinance 5, 2019 on second reading.
Second.
Okay, any discussion amongst the council on ordinance 5?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about it a little bit. Just give me a second. I guess I start by saying that I'm a Costco member, and I'm really excited about the expansion of the building. I have no objection to the expansion of the current facility, and quite frankly, I look forward to shopping there. Since the vote was taken, I have received a lot of input, and I guess that's why we have two readings. It gives us a chance to think about and receive additional input about what we're doing. And I've got some significant concerns about the size of the proposed gas station. We're talking about 24 fueling stations, which seems like a lot of fueling stations. Even
Matthew, this is ordinance 5. This is just the text. We're not actually talking about the zoning of the Costco property yet.
Well, then I guess as they say on TV, never mind.
Okay, so let's if we may, let's finish ordinance 5, and then when we move on to ordinance 6, we can address your question.
Sorry, I went running out to the bathroom.
Okay, so is there any other further discussion about ordinance 5? Hearing none, let's go for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Seeing no opposition, 4-0, motion passes. Now let's move on to ordinance 6. Can I have the clerk read the title, please?
Ordinance 6, 2019, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, rezoning certain real property within the corporate limits of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, consisting of two parcels totaling 16.61 acres in size, more or less, located on the south side of North Lake Boulevard, approximately 0.2 miles west of Congress Avenue, to be known as the Costco Plan Unit Development PUD, providing that this parcel of real property, as more particularly described herein, shall be assigned the city zoning designation of Plan Unit Development PUD, overlay with an underlying zoning designation of General Commercial CG1, providing that the zoning map of the City of Palm Beach Gardens be amended accordingly, providing a conflicts clause, a severability clause, and authority to codify, providing an effective date for other purposes. Resolution 20, 2019 is a companion item to Ordinance 6, 2019, and will require council action. Resolution 20, 2019, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, granting site plan and major conditional use approval for a retail expansion and 24 fueling position fuel center to the Costco Wholesale Club Plan Unit Development PUD, totaling 16.61 acres, more or less, located on the south side of North Lake Boulevard, at the intersection of North Lake Boulevard and MacArthur Boulevard, approximately 0.2 miles west of Congress Avenue, as more particularly described herein, providing conditions of approval, providing waivers, providing an effective date, and for other purposes.
Thank you. I'm going to open up the public hearing. First, if we can declare any ex partes. Matthew, I guess you do.
Yeah, I do. I spoke to Jim Danini, and I also spoke to Kevin Dalton.
Yes, I definitely have an ex parte. Kevin Dalton called me yesterday, and speaking against Costco, and also indicating that he had spoken with Matthew, and that Matthew was going to table the discussion, at which point I said to him, Kevin, this is considered breaking sunshine, and procedure for tomorrow is that if you have any comments, you come to the podium and you have your comments at the podium not with us privately like this, indicating what another member of. I did receive a text message from him today. Maria, looking back, I misspoke yesterday about Matt's comments. I was just excited that he agreed to hear me out and was sympathetic to what I was saying. Just an FYI, Kevin Dalton. I'm not throwing you under the bus, Kevin, but sunshine is a very important law that we have here in the city, in the state, and what transpired yesterday, as I said to you, was made me very uncomfortable because of you made an indication of what another council member might have voted on, and that's not proper. So I am bringing it up today, cover all of our behinds. I have had no other ex partes, so I'm just sharing.
Carl?
I spoke with Kevin as well. Former Mayor Mike Martino called me concerning traffic, and I did not speak to Mr. Donini. I asked Kevin to refer the conversation back over to him so I didn't have to have redundant conversations. So other than that, it was just the three people.
And
I also spoke to Mike Martino about this.
I only spoke with Mr. Matheson, Mr. Seymour after the last meeting, and just walking in with Kevin today. So I had not had any other conversations with anybody else.
And just to be clear, as I talked to you guys all before, the conversations with Mr. Dalton and Mr. Donini, I'm assuming for all four of you were there, or not, I'm sorry, for three of the four of you were them expressing their opposition to the project, and I'm assuming that the conversation that the two of you had with Mayor Martino was about the same topic, which is really to traffic and opposition to the project.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I also spoke to Steve Matheson about the project today. And Brian Seymour, I contacted when he was in Honduras, Roatan, Honduras, and I spoke with him about the project as well.
And it's safe to assume that those of you that spoke to Mr. Seymour and Mr. Matheson, they were speaking to you about this in the affirmative, correct?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you.
He also complained about the fact that his cruise was scheduled to go to Cuba, and
Didn't make it.
he's ended up going to Key West.
So has anything else changed since first reading from the petitioner or the staff?
No, Mr. Mayor, there have been no changes, but staff would like the opportunity, in light of some recent concerns that have been raised, to reiterate a very brief summary of some of those traffic concerns. If you would allow us to please go through just a few minutes.
Sure. Have you been sworn in?
I have been sworn in,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Mayor. For the record, Martin Fitz, Planning and Zoning. I just want to briefly reiterate some of the information that was brought up at the last meeting, particularly about the traffic and the site plan for the site. This site is, based on the traffic study, there will be a net reduction in the overall trips, daily trips of almost 500. There will be a slight increase in the morning trips of about 34 and a decrease in the PM trips. This reduction in the total number of trips seems a little counterintuitive, but it's based on the numbers of the overall reduction in the retail square footage on the site. Currently, there's a 43,000 square foot retail space that someone could come in and fully occupy, and those trips would be generated on that site as it is today. That building is going to be removed, and the Costco site will be expanding by 20,000 square feet. So that leaves a overall reduction of about 23,000 square feet. So those trips are being basically credited and pulled out of the overall number of trips that are going to be generated by the site. The site did receive Palm Beach County TPS, or Traffic Performance Standards, approval. With that approval, they were required to make certain traffic, roadway improvements and intersection improvements. The improvements to the intersection, primarily dealing with the changing of the signal timing and the lane configuration, will actually allow the intersection to move from a level of service F to a level of service C, which is actually a functioning intersection. And as I said, these changes are in the signal timing will result in fewer signal changes at the intersection and shorter delays to get a turn signal. The roadway improvements that they're being required to do include extending the right turn lane from just west of the far entrance all the way to the signalized intersection at MacArthur Boulevard, entering into the Costco site. This will result, and also they're changing the entrance at the Rooms to Go outlet site from a right-in, right-out to a right-in only. This results in a right-in, right-out at the shared entrance on the northwest of the site, a right-in, a fully signalized intersection, and then a right-out only on the far east side. The internal circulation for the site has been designed so that traffic that wants to go to the fuel center can get to the fuel center without interacting with the traffic going to the store, so that we minimize the conflicts between those two. There are three locations where you can make a right turn onto North Lake Boulevard, one on the far west side, one at the signalized intersection, and one on the far east side. There will be one location to make a left turn, and that will have the two dedicated left turn sites. The site itself has a predictable traffic pattern throughout the parking lot, and as you said, traffic will come in from the signalized intersection, can make a right turn, follow down into the gas station, and when they come out, they can either go back to the west, go to the signalized intersection, or if they have additional shopping, they can go back to the shopping lot, the parking lot on the right, and then leave all the way on the east. The existing intersection has a dedicated right turn, a shared right turn, and a dedicated left turn coming from MacArthur Boulevard. And from Costco, the dedicated left turn, a through left, and a right turn. And it could take up to 4 different cycle changes or signal changes in order to get a turn signal from one of those. With this change, the county is requiring them to change the exit from Costco to 2 dedicated left turn lanes and a through right turn lane. This will allow them to have simultaneous left turning movements from MacArthur and the Costco, and then simultaneous through and right turning movements. This changes the cycle changes down to 2 cycles per rotation, which speeds up the process and allows people to get through the intersection much faster. The fuel center itself is not going to be a 24-hour operation, as some people have indicated. It's going to be open from 6 to 9 Monday through Friday and 7 to 7 on Saturday and Sunday. It's for fuel sales only. There's no convenience store or auto repairs or anything like that associated with it. And it's going to be used only by members of the wholesale club. So the general public will not have access for using the site. And that finishes our presentation, if you have any questions.
Thank you. Does a presenter the applicant or petitioner have a presentation as well?
Just a few comments.
And you've been sworn in?
I have, sir. If I may,
Name
Mayor
and address.
Marciano.
Name and address, please. for the
Oh,
record.
yes, sir. Steve Matheson. I'm now at 121 Emerald Key Lane, Palm Beach Gardens. I'm proud to say. I'm here this evening with our entire ownership and our development team, but for my dear friend and colleague, Brian Seymour, who's taken a well-earned vacation. I have worn colorful socks in homage to him, although I must say they're not as colorful as Brian normally would sport. I can only go so far for someone I love. With that, I would like to say thank you to staff for the very thorough, very in-depth review of this project. We have been in process for many, many, many months, well over a year in the process of shaping this to be something that Palm Beach Gardens can be proud of, something that represents our values as a community. The project has been thoroughly vetted. Of course, we had a 5-0 vote at first reading at this council based upon a unanimous recommendation of your Planning and Zoning Board, again, based upon the support and recommendation of approval from your staff. And that doesn't come lightly. You all know that. If there are comments tonight that are related to other fueling facilities, I would respectfully state that competition is not a basis for denial or even objection. We have a facility which serves our members, and as staff has put into the record, and as we have thoroughly placed in the record before, the plan before you tonight actually creates a scenario under which the turning movements at MacArthur Boulevard, the circulation, and the overall traffic capacity is improved. It is not diminished. We have Chris from Kimley Horn here tonight. We have Brandon, our planner and engineer here, who can answer any questions you have, but respectfully, we think we've answered all those questions. If there is a discussion tonight where someone is objecting, I would respectfully reserve the right to respond, and we would urge your approval of this petition, which we believe is in the best interest of our residents. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Martin.
Thank you. So I do have two cards of members of the public. First is Jim Donini. Name and address for the record, and if you've been sworn
My
in.
name's Jim Donini, and I reside at 11520 Stonehaven Way in Palm Beach Gardens.
You've been sworn in?
I'm sorry?
You've been sworn in?
Yes, I have.
Yes, thank you.
First of all, Mayor and staff, appreciate the opportunity. This is an 11th hour sort of dig here that I'm not really proud of or a little embarrassed because I wasn't aware. I was aware of this project when it first started, and to quickly summarize, because I respected the time manager, and I see you have a big agenda here tonight. When I first heard about it, it was, I was actually on North Lake Boulevard driving when I first heard there was going to be the thoughts of putting a 24 fueling spots in a location like where the project is. I felt, knowing a little bit, being 40 years of experience in the service station business and having several sites in this community, I thought, knowing that I've been declined for trying to add 4 fueling spots because of traffic issues, I just thought it was a no-brainer and didn't think much of it. But here we are today with it being approved. I'm a Costco member, so I'm glad to see for the betterment of the facility. I know there's not traffic issues so much, but, well, there's always been traffic issues on North Lake, but internally in the site, obviously there's parking issues and challenges, but that goes with doing a lot of business, so, you know, that's progress, and I'm not going to deny that, and I'm not here for a hardship because we have several stations in the area. Obviously, I would not like to see it happen, you know, because it probably economically is going to hurt us, but I'm more concerned about the type of facility and why it is so large. Again, with my experience having 24 fueling sites or 12 MPDs, that seems like a little bit of overkill for a club site. It's not open to the public, as I understand, but it is creating more trips. Now, just seeing a little bit of the information tonight, I could see where some of the traffic credit comes back by removing a building, which I wasn't aware of. And, but at the same time, I think we're being misled by that the only people that use this are the club members that are on site. That's not true at all. Being a club member, we go to the club for our necessities or whatever we want to buy, and mostly it's bulk because that's what they solicit there. But we go for gas maybe 3 or 4 times, maybe twice, you know, well, let's say 6, 8 times a month, without even going into the facility. So I think that's an accumulation of more trips that somebody's not aware of. The other thing is I'm concerned about if the town wants to leave the site that big, come into our community, I think it's truck stop mentality. It's too large, and it will probably have everybody else knocking on the door that wants to build a big facility. And I think you're going to be, you know, in for trouble with something like that. You set a precedent, and all of a sudden, everybody's going to say, well, and again,
I appreciate your
don't think
time,
anything does
sir.
a better job than you guys do on controlling things, but I think we're just missing the boat here a little bit on you know, allowing so many feelings.
Yes,
It's
sir. It's been,
inevitable.
you've had your 3 minutes. I
Okay.
appreciate your
Well,
time.
again,
And I think
thank
your
you for
point
the
is
time.
well made, so
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you.
Kevin Dalton?
Thanks, Jim. I'm already down to 2 minutes. Kevin Dalton, 226 Sonata Drive, Jupiter, Florida. I was sworn in, by the way, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Sure. I'm very embarrassed that I'm here at the, on the night of final approval. However, this is my right as a per city ordinance, and I do agree with Mr. Matheson that the whole site is inevitable. It's going to happen, and I'm not here for anything that he talked about, so I don't see any reason for him to come back up. But what we're trying to do is create a better traffic pattern from North Lake and Military all the way to Costco. That's always been the problem. It doesn't happen to be just the Costco entrance and turn lane. And I'm just confused about what we're approving. I own 3 gas stations on North Lake Boulevard, for full disclosure, and I've got a total of 12 pumps, 24 fueling positions, and we're giving Costco at the one location 24 fueling positions, and basically we're putting a truck stop on North Lake, and we don't need that. This is just counterproductive. Also, a variance for the Costco price sign, larger than any gas station within city limits, is also completely unnecessary and should be reconsidered. A 1% decrease in traffic is about 500 cars a day, as Mr. Fitz said. This is what I hear, but I just simply believe it's a false number, and ultimately it's a false number and will come back to haunt the city after completion, especially when widening begins in 3 years or so for that section all the way to North Lake and Military for the FDOT project for the 95 on and off ramps. I'm not concerned about the outgoing traffic or incoming traffic into the property. It's simply about the traffic on North Lake as a whole. So again, that's to put Mr. Matheson's reasoning at rest. Also, how in the world does a city like Palm Beach Gardens not allow a future BJ's or Target, but allows a huge expansion of Costco and allow additionally for a truck stop size gas station on an already overpopulated road? I don't understand that, and I'm asking for the city for your help this evening and to consider postponing your final vote for the Costco project or just the gas station portion. Let city staff go back and get with Mr. Matheson and to see if we can get those pumps reduced from 24 fueling positions down to 12 or 16 fueling positions. Again, I've got 7 seconds. I've got 12 total fueling, 12 pumps total at my 3 gas stations spread out on North Lake, and they're asking for 24 fueling positions in one location on North Lake Boulevard, and that's uncalled for.
Thank you, Kevin.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You very much. If you have any questions, please feel free. Anyone?
No, we're good. We'll have our discussion in a moment when
Thank
we're
you.
all done. I do have one other card I will allow. Henry Stark, please make it quick, since you did put it in a little bit late, but we'll acknowledge one last card.
I apologize. Good evening.
Name and address for the record, and
Henry Stark, 5810 Dixie Bell Road, Palm Beach Gardens, Florida.
And you have not been sworn in, I would
No, I
assume.
have not. I'll be happy to be sworn in.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. Do you solemnly swear to tell the whole truth? I'm sorry, do you
The truth, the
solemnly
whole
swear to
truth,
tell the
and
truth, the
nothing
whole
but the
truth, and
truth?
nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Can I have my time back? I'd like to read a statement, if I may. I've lived in Palm Beach Gardens continuously now for just under 40 years. I'm speaking on my own behalf. I have no financial, vested, or conflict of interest other than being a member of Costco and other similar wholesale buying clubs in this area, as I suspect many other of us are. It's my true belief that any objection to this proposed ordinance should be viewed in the context to that of other similarly competing entities in the direct market area. Specifically, high and low-end food stores such as supermarkets, Publix, Winn-Dixie, even the neighborhood markets, have continued to flourish despite this entity's 20-year-plus existence. Department stores and other warehouse clubs, Target, Walmart, Sam's Club, etc., have not closed. Pharmacies such as Walgreens, CVS, and smaller local pharmacies have not gone out of business, and instead they've even expanded in the past few years. Objection to the introduction of this competitive business and others often leads to friction between established and proposed entities. Yet disallowing such opportunity by government authority, such as may occur here, is certainly contrary to the values we hold dear in terms of freedom as Americans. Given the chance to provide an honest competition with progress in any business venture will allow the cream to rise to the top. Fear of failure is rarely a value shared by confident business leaders, irrespective of their old or new competition. It's my understanding that this council's purpose, as is common to all governmental entities, is to protect the welfare, rights, and the citizens over which it presides. It seems to me that defeat of this proposal does harm to more citizens than it would by its passage. I therefore stand in favor of the council's vote to approve this ordinance, and thank you for the opportunity of addressing the council.
Thank you.
I left time over.
Thank you very much. All right, that's all the cards I have, so we're going to close the public hearing. Can't get a motion in a second to approve.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
There's no one in favor. So let's bring it back for discussion, please. Who wants, Matthew, you were starting your conversation and discussion earlier. Why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, I started my conversation by saying, I want to begin by saying that I'm a Costco member. I'm going to have to amend that now. I want to begin by saying that I used to be a Costco member. I hope I still am. I've had a lot of conversations with, first with their excellent attorney, Steve Matheson. You could not have had a better attorney. You should know that. We spoke in depth. I also spoke to Kevin and Jim, and they laid out their thoughts to me, and I'd like to kind of discuss these a little bit because they resonated with me. There was a significant concern about the size of the proposed gas station. 24 fueling stations is a lot of fueling stations. Even Wawa and Racetrack don't have that many fueling stations. And this proposal allows the installation of a gas station that's the size, literally the size of a truck stop, right on North Lake Boulevard. And I don't think we really want to turn North Lake Boulevard into Okeechobee Boulevard or the Connector Road in Fort Pierce. Traffic is a huge concern for me, especially traffic on North Lake Boulevard. And I believe that a huge station like this one will generate a large amount of traffic on a street that's already overcrowded. Now, I've reviewed the traffic studies, and they are, as was said, they are counterintuitive. And I have quite a few concerns, having reviewed them, about their validity, that with 24 fueling stations, traffic's actually going to go down on a road that's already overtaxed. More importantly, in these discussions, the experts who really didn't have as much time as I have to discuss this, experts in the industry have indicated to me that based upon their analysis, they feel that the traffic study is flawed, and that their extensive experience in the industry indicates that a station of this magnitude will create much more traffic. Now, in questioning this facility, I really don't worry about depriving our residents of the ability to buy cheap gas. There's a Speedway right next door that sells cheap gas at the lowest possible price. I also worry about the impact that this station is going to have upon some of the small business owners along and local merchants along the street. They have local owners who employ local residents, who support our community, and who send their children to school with ours. What will North Lake Boulevard look like if these small businesses are driven out of business by a hypermarket? Another concern was conveyed to me very clearly by one of our residents, who's someone that I respect, and I think that we would all respect as well, about what this is going to do to his neighborhood by having all this traffic coming in and out, especially cut-through traffic. So in my conversations, people have asked me to propose tabling this proposal until they have sufficient time to provide us with additional data. Now, they've apologized for the lateness of this request, but before we put a station of this magnitude on North Lake Boulevard, I think we should make sure that we're doing the right thing. So I propose a counter motion that we table this for a month so that we can bring in expert testimony, so that we are sure that if we approve this, it's the right thing to do. And if it turns out then that it is the right thing to do, great. Then we've done our due diligence. If not, we will move forward and approve it. So those are my brief thoughts, having listened to all the sides, and that's my thought on it.
Did you, on your expertise, you made comment to that? I just want to be sure.
Yes, I did.
Thank you. Okay. Carl, do you have any comments, or would you like to go first? I think we need to bring this up for some discussion. Carl?
So what happens is when we work on these projects for a year or more, and Kevin, we worked on several projects with your 2 gas stations that take more than a few months for design, prep, washing stations or whatever. When you wait to the last minute after we've all been ingrained in this project, and I've had over the last months casual conversations with the community, because that's what I do, and I haven't heard anything negative. And when you reach out to the council, what we do is, because we're accountable to our constituents who vote, we scramble to get answers, and then staff gets in an uproar, the city manager gets in an uproar, the project people get in an uproar. And now's not the time to be discussing this when I know it was in the paper at least 2 months ago, and exposed how many fuel stations and so on. It's not me, I'm not an expert in engineering. I trust staff and the county, their engineers, who mathematically concluded that with a redesign of MacArthur and North Lake to include additional left turn lanes south on MacArthur, that the intersection's going to be improved. Now's not the time to go backwards, to go forward, when we're at this point now, moments before a vote, and Costco services the whole community, including the people that are complaining that there's too many pumps. And Mr. Matheson, say we were going to, at the request of the 2 people who are opposing this, who are in the market of selling fuel, if we paused for 30 days and we asked you to come back with a redesign for 12 pumps, how much would that cost?
It's not only the cost. We have proved empirically, we have Kimley Horn, we have very qualified engineers that have put in the record and have passed the very stringent analysis of your city staff and engineer that this works. This is not a truck stop. This is not truck stop light. This does not sell gas, or absolutely not convenience store type goods, as these gentlemen do, to the general public. This is members only. We feel that we've proved our case, it's in the record, and we'd like to have a vote tonight.
Well, I would think that, like I shared some of the traffic demographics with Mr. Martino, whose main concern was traffic, and I emailed it to you. I hope you got it, Mr. Martino, and put him at ease because he wasn't aware that it was a members only. I'm offended by the word truck stop. I don't care if it's Kevin saying it or Donini. That's offensive. We wouldn't allow a truck stop. And to saying that there's a truck stop mentality to the to the people that go there and get fuel and partake in, the whole thing's going to be redone. So on that question is the phase of doing the gas station part of it, is that the second phase? I forgot. So we don't break ground on that for like a year or two?
We'll
Or
proceed first with the actual fueling facility.
So that's first?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We feel it's necessary, and we have a lease that's pending, which frankly, the landlord has been quite patient through this long process.
Right. Well, I've said it a few times, I've been a cop here my whole life. And I know when I was a cop here, all I did was traffic. There was probably 40,000 trips a day on North Lake Boulevard, 40 to 50. Natalie, you probably know better than I do. Is there 65,000 trips a day on North Lake Boulevard? Does anybody know that? I don't see how with that many people on North Lake Boulevard, when especially Dalton stations, Mr. Dalton stations are westbound at 95. You are strategically located to absorb the traffic that's getting off of 95. People who want to get fuel don't want to go to MacArthur to get it if you're not going that way. I'm a Costco member, and I'm not going to get fuel there if I need fuel. So that's all I have to say about it. Thank you.
Maria?
I think the process has been done the way it's supposed to. The notification has been done the way it's supposed to. Staff has done their job. The petitioner has done their job. I believe that there were plenty of time for people to come forward before this. Costco has given us fair warning for quite a long time. So I am in favor of taking a vote this evening.
Thank you. My only comments, and I wish we had spoken earlier, but the reality is, in my opinion, when this first came to each of us individually with the city manager in our own private meetings, I voiced a lot of concerns, and to Natalie as well. And through the hard work of staff, which they always do, along with the applicant, they made a lot of adjustments to the plan to address the concerns. The one concern that I still had was asking about trying to find a way to put signage within the parking lot to direct eastbound traffic to the furthest eastbound exit. And I talked with Brian Seymour about that, and I think that's something that's going to come up a little bit later. Competition is what America is all about. I mean, I have two small businesses now, and I compete with Costco for some of the services that I provide. I just think I do it better than you do. Sorry, that's me personally. So there you go. Sure, thank you. So
You're seeing my girlfriend tomorrow morning.
there you go. Right. So America is built on competition. You get better at what you do. The fact that the gas station will be there, I think your business actually benefits because you offer services that they won't to people that don't go to Costco for gas. So I understand the concern, the fear, and oh boy, but it's not our job to decide who are winners and losers in government when it comes to private business. But you run a wonderful business, both of you do, and you're always busy. So I don't think you have to worry about that. In terms of traffic, I think we've addressed the issues a lot. So I appreciate you guys are here. You've got my number too. I felt like left out. I was the only one that you didn't call, but that's okay. At least I didn't have an ex parte today. But with that, I don't have any other comments unless anyone else has any further questions or comments. So hearing no other discussion, let's have a vote.
Well, just to clean up the record, you had a substitute motion that was made, but it did not receive a second, so you are back to your primary motion. It would be appropriate to have a vote.
Thank you for clarifying. So a motion, we've already had a motion and a second to approve. May I have a vote? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 3-1. Motion carries. Thank you. And Resolution 20, it's already been read. There's no further discussion on Resolution 20. No. So can I get so we're going to open the hearing. There's no other presentations. There's no cards on Resolution 20 directly. So I'm going to close the hearing. Can I get a motion and a second to approve Resolution 20?
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 20, 2019.
I will second.
Thank you. Any discussion? No.
Negative.
No other further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries 3-1. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight.
We thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Messon. And Natalie, Mark, thank you.
Okay. Let's move on to Ordinance 7, 2019. Can the clerk read the title, please?
Ordinance 7, 2019, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, rezoning certain real property within the corporate limits of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, consisting of one parcel totaling 6.96 acres in size, more or less, located on the southeast corner of the intersection of PGA Boulevard and Mall Road, approximately 0.15 miles west of Campus Drive, to be known as the Palm Beach Tax Collector Plan Unit Development, PUD, providing that this parcel of real property, as more particularly described herein, shall be assigned the city zoning designation of Plan Unit Development, PUD, overlay with an underlying zoning designation of public/institutional, PI, providing that the zoning map of the City of Palm Beach Gardens be amended accordingly, providing a conflicts clause, a severability clause, and authority to codify, providing an effective date and for other purposes. Resolution 21, 2019 is a companion item to Ordinance 6, 2019, and will require council action. Resolution 21, 2019, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, granting site plan approval for a governmental office building to the Tax Collector Plan Unit Development, PUD. The subject site is 6.96 acres, more or less in size, located on the southeast corner of the intersection of PGA Boulevard and Mall Road, approximately 0.15 miles west of Campus Drive, as more particularly described herein, providing conditions of approval, providing waivers, providing an effective date, and for other purposes.
Thank you. Let's open up the public hearing. Is there any ex partes on Ordinance 7 since first reading? Matthew? No, I don't have any other. So, has anything changed since first reading?
Mr. Mayor, there have been no changes since first reading.
Okay. Does anybody need a presentation? Nope. Thank you. There's no comment cards on Ordinance 7, so we will close the public hearing. I hear someone's coming. So can I get a motion and a second to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, I'll second.
Any discussion?
Nope.
All right, hearing all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Motion carries 4-0. Thank you. All right. And also for Resolution 21, we'll open the public hearing, and I guess there's no other ex partes, no other presentations or cards. We'll close the public hearing. Can I get a motion and a second?
I make a motion that we approve Resolution 21, 2019.
Second.
Any further discussion? No. Bring it back for a vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Thank you. Okay, Ordinance 8, 2019 on first reading. Can I have the clerk read the title, please?
Ordinance 8, 2019, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, rezoning certain real property within the corporate limits of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, consisting of real property totaling 5.27 acres in size, more or less, and located on the southeast corner of PGA Boulevard and Ballin Isles Drive, to be known as the Ballin Isles East Out Parcel Plan Unit Development, PUD, providing that this parcel of real property that is more particularly described herein shall be assigned the city zoning designation of Plan Unit Development, PUD, overlay with an underlying zoning designation of Neighborhood Commercial, CN, providing that the zoning map of the City of Palm Beach Gardens be amended accordingly, providing a conflicts clause, a severability clause, and authority to codify, providing an effective date and for other purposes.
Thank you. We'll open the public hearing. Are there any ex partes? Matthew?
Yes. Just see here. I spoke with Roma Joseph, Pat Rado, Michael Muntner, Linda Greenhouse, and Steve Matheson.
Maria?
They were against approval of this project. Yes, they were against. I apologize.
Okay, I had quite a few ex partes, and I have to say that I had a multitude of residents of Ballin Isles talk to me against this project, many of whose names I do not know. So can I just say a multitude of residents? Okay. I did have an ex parte with Maziar Keshevars, whose discussion was basically they have a right to the use of their property and to build. So I would say he was more in favor. Ken Kennerly, I had an ex parte with him, and he was more in favor of just hearing the petitioner. and Will Willis was also a please hear the petitioner. So those would be my ex partes.
Carl?
I've had no ex partes, and I chose to do that for a reason, because this project's been going on with the tension between Ballin Isles and Mr. Bills long before we were here, so I wanted to remain neutral and not talk to anybody regarding this project ever.
Thank you. I did have a number of ex partes. I met with Marty Perry, spoke with him on the phone in favor of John Bills, John Clark Bills as well, in favor of Steve Matheson, Roma Joseph, and a number of Ballin Isles residents in opposition too. So I kind of saw both sides of it as well. So now this item has been pulled from consideration. Max, can you please just review the process?
Well, the applicant has requested a postponement, so it is up to the council to vote on that postponement, and I believe staff they've already made a recommendation, and they have a recommendation for the time. They've requested a postponement until July 11th, but I don't believe that that is feasible, and Ms. Crowley can expound on that. So we will have to go through the motion to open the public hearing, and if we have any cards on this, we'd have to take public comment tonight, even if it is postponed. I will tell the people, that anybody that has put in a card for it, if you speak, if it is postponed, if you choose to speak this evening, you won't be able to speak at first reading when it comes back. You're still only get to speak twice, first reading and second reading. So if you would be speaking tonight for or against the project, you would be doing so without the benefit of a presentation by the petitioner or staff. Natalie?
Yes, thank you. Staff has reviewed the applicant's request for postponement, and council action will be necessary after the public has been afforded the opportunity to speak. The applicant has requested a specific postponement for 30 days. And in their letter, the applicant was very specific that they are looking to fill this space with a potential corporate user and modify the program then potentially to eliminate medical office use and replace it with a use that is unspecified at this point in time. It is unspecified what that corporate headquarters may be, nor is it specified whether or not that corporate headquarters has yet come into fruition. But what staff does know is that if this petition is modified, staff needs the ability and the time to be able to review the petition. The traffic impacts, the parking statements, the specific turn lane improvements, and the subsequent vegetation that is necessary to be removed are all based on a specific program. So staff does not support a 30-day postponement because staff would like the ability to be able to review any information if it has changed. Staff recommends that the petition be postponed indefinitely, and if the petitioner does come forward and say, we're not changing anything, then the petition can move forward. But if the applicant wishes to move forward with a modified program, staff needs the time to be able to evaluate not only the analysis, but then also be able to potentially evaluate whether or not the petition has to be brought before the Planning and Zoning Board as a matter of procedure. So staff recommends a postponement indefinitely.
Thank you. Can I have the petitioner, please? Name and address for the record, and if you've been sworn in.
For the record, Marty Perry, 4500 PGA Boulevard, Palm Beach Gardens. I have been sworn in. Notwithstanding Natalie's comments, and I understand where she's coming from, the reality is that the proposed use, if this tenant is secured, is basically general office use, which is a substantial reduction in the amount of daily trips as well as peak hour trips relative to the project. The site plan we don't propose any changes to the site plan. The tenant has indicated, the prospective tenant has indicated an interest in the building itself and in the site plan as it's currently laid out. So I don't really see the kind of changes that she's talking about, the necessity to review, but notwithstanding that, I mean, I can understand and appreciate that they want some time. You know, we asked for 30 days. I think 60 days probably would be better for their purposes. The reality is we had hoped that we'd be able to identify the prospective national tenant before we came here this evening. That hasn't been in the cards. We expect that to be sometime very shortly, hopefully within the coming week. And as soon as we have that information, we'll make that information known to staff so that we can move this thing along. We just want to be able to process this. As I'm sure that you can all appreciate, the reality is that any prospective tenant, and I've dealt with this for years and years, want to know that there is a time certain that they can depend on, that this thing is going to be processed and it's go forward. You just heard the same thing from Costco tonight. They were in here for a long period of time. They were anxious to get going. They'd spent a lot of time and effort on it. They want predictability is always what everybody's looking for. But in any event, we'll rest with your judgment. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have any cards on this, so we're going to close the public hearing. Can I get a motion and a second to approve?
Yeah, I'm going to make a.
But
Well, hold on. Before we do that, we have to decide what we're approving, correct?
Correct.
So,
So I believe Councilmember Lane has.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion in light of staff's recommendation that we postpone this matter indefinitely until the applicant's application is complete. This has gone through the review process, and it's ready to be heard by council.
so that's your motion?
That's my motion.
Can I get a second on that motion? So the motion is to delay the application. Well, we will talk about it.
So do we have to second that?
It's to let me-
I'll second it for
Okay.
discussion, sure.
So a second
Okay,
for
so we can
discussion.
move on to discussion, correct.
Should I clarify, or?
I believe that, just to, let me attempt, that the motion was to postpone the application until they come back with a complete application. It's not postponed to a time certain, it would just be postponed.
Yes, until the applicant's application is complete, has gone through the complete review process, and then it'll be ready to be heard by us as a council.
Yes. Does anyone have any comments?
I'll second.
Well, we've already had a motion and a second to.
Do you have a second?
Carl was our
Oh,
second.
thanks, Carl.
So let's open it up for discussion. Does anyone have any discussion or want to comment on this motion?
I do.
Go ahead.
Marty? Thanks for coming in.
Yes, sir.
You know what I've learned as a council member in 3 years, that the commitment of a potential tenant comes and goes like the wind. And do you have something writing, signed at this particular, you have a contract in hand, so you don't know if you have a
We had
commitment?
hoped to have a letter of intent by tonight's meeting. We
Which
don't have
doesn't
that
mean
yet.
anything, does it?
We're very hopeful of having that shortly.
What's the legal weight of a letter of intent, since you're an attorney?
Well, the legal weight really is not a contract, it's just an expression of intent between two parties to go to a contract. And obviously, any contract that they enter into is going to be subject to zoning. There's no question about that.
Okay, so since we don't have a tenant,
Right now, we have a tenant that has expressed interest in this site as a location for its corporate headquarters. It's a national tenant. I think it's one that the city would be proud to have. But beyond that, I can't identify who it is at the present time. Those negotiations are ongoing.
well, since I earlier mentioned that I really haven't spoke to anybody about this project, usually, since I'm a council member of 3 years with Avenir, with multiple projects, we have the opportunity to meet with the applicant and go over potential ideas, and they bounce things off council, which usually will help streamline things through staff, build relationships, and get buildings built. We've even turned down the Twin Towers, and they've adjusted to, their pyramid schemes to go with what staff wanted in council. So I haven't seen one brick on a design, so I would be in favor of you guys going backwards to go forwards to get it right, because as naive as I am about your particular project, I don't know how I can approve anything without being involved in it, like Costco. So unless you can enlighten me on
Well-
how you can do something in 30 days when I've never spoke to anybody about this.
Well, Mr. Woods, let me suggest one thing. First of all, we have a plan that's been submitted with our graphics of the building. None of that is proposed to change. We're not proposing any changes to the site plan. We're not proposing any changes to the elevations of the building. Everything remains identically the same. Basically, what we're doing is proposing to eliminate all medical office uses, change it so that the uses will be strictly professional office, okay? It'll be a corporate headquarters for an entity that will basically use it as general corporate offices for general office purposes. No change other than that, other than there would be a substantial reduction in the amount of the daily trips as well as the peak hour trips. All of that is beneficial not only to Ballin Isles, but to the city as a whole and to PGA Boulevard.
Right, and I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but understanding that, and since I wouldn't have any knowledge to vote on, I would have to go with staff, and right now, I think the P and Z board voted 7-0 against the whole project.
Correct, sir.
So Marty, you got to go backwards to fix this.
No, I understand. The
So we
project
can
that they voted against
come
was
together as a
medical
community and help you build this as a community and include the people in Ballin Isles and what their desires may want and so on, and stop the bickering so you guys can get a building. Thank
Your
you.
lips to God's ears.
Okay, thanks.
Maria, do you have any comments?
My comments would be, by changing the use, do we change requirements from what the city needs?
The answer is yes.
Okay, so, and that takes time, and more time than 30 days.
Correct.
Okay, so to put a time, Marty, I apologize, but to put a time certain, I don't think is beneficial to you based on what has already come to pass. So I would.
I'm prepared to deal with that.
Okay, I would like.
I just don't want to start over again.
Well, I'm guessing if you're going to change uses, you're going to have to be starting over.
It's not a change in use in the sense of anything other than it's not going to be a medical use. It's just going to be general office. You don't change the building. The structure doesn't change at all. The envelope remains the same and the interior remains the same.
Well, I'm not part of the Planning and Zoning Board, and I am not our engineer and our Director of Planning and Zoning, so they are the ones that are educated on this and not I, so I would bow my head to them to give us guidance.
Matthew, any comments?
No further comment.
I don't have any comment either. I appreciate you coming tonight, and I'm glad that there might be some opportunity to do something different. So, but we are going to be postponing indefinite. It can be 30 days, it can be 60 days, it can be whatever you and staff work out. So with that, no other discussion. Let's just have a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Ordinance 9, 2019. Can the clerk read the title, please?
Ordinance 9, 2019, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, amending Chapter 78, Land Development at Section 78-154 to add a new subsection G4C in order to provide a density bonus for planned unit developments in mixed-use future land use areas that provide a workforce or affordable housing component, providing that each and every other section and subsection of Chapter 78 Land Development shall remain in full force and effect as previously adopted, providing a conflicts clause, a severability clause, and authority to codify, providing an effective date and for other purposes.
Thank you. We'll open the hearing. Is there a petitioner presentation?
There is. Good
Name and
evening.
address, please.
For the record, my name is Ann Booth. I'm with Urban Design Kilday Studios, and I'm here tonight to represent the applicant. My address is 610 Clematis Street in West Palm Beach, and I have been sworn in. We are here tonight to, with a multitude of requests. The applicant is interested in providing a residential community within the city center existing PUD. And in order to do that, there are a number of elements that have to be addressed. That includes a large-scale comprehensive plan map amendment, rezoning the property from commercial to mixed use, and a land development regulation amendment, and a comprehensive plan text amendment. As part of the whole process, we will be also asking for 2 waivers as part of our site plan amendment for the PUD. The site is located on the southwest corner of PJ Boulevard and US 1. Excuse me. It is surrounded by a variety of residential and commercial uses. There is existing development on the majority of the property. The development that we're proposing for the residential component of this project is Parcel F, which is a vacant tract on the southwest corner of the City Center PUD. The future land use plan map amendment is to allow the property to go from commercial to mixed use. This would allow for a residential density of 10 units to the acre. The change is consistent with the goals and criteria of the comprehensive plan and state statutes. It is compatible with this and supports the surrounding uses and enables live, work, play community within walking distance of all of the amenities and the things that you would want for a residential community that is part of a mixed-use community. The residents will be able to work within walking distance, they'll be able to shop within walking distance, and they'll be able to find entertainment within walking distance. We've shown that the project that we're proposing meets all levels of service for standards for traffic, water, sewer, drainage, solid waste, fire, police, schools, and recreation. And this proposed use that is in the southwest corner provides an excellent transition between the more intense commercial use of the city center PUD and the residential uses that are to the west. It also meets the goals of the housing element by providing workforce housing component. As a land use comparison of what we're proposing to what is currently existing, the existing land use and commercial zoning allows for a potential of 828,000 square feet. That includes retail, office, restaurant. There's an existing approval for 156,000 square feet. The proposed land use reduces that maximum potential intensity to 473,000 square feet plus the 136 dwelling units. The existing approval plus what we're proposing will document and vest the property for a further reduction down to 99,063 square feet plus the 136 units. The comprehensive plan text amendment will allow a mixed-use PUD with workforce housing to request a density bonus. Density bonuses are provided for in the code and the comprehensive plan for all other residential districts. It is just not allowed for in a mixed-use community or mixed-use zoning. The applicant is voluntarily providing workforce housing, and in order to do that, we need to make these revisions to the comprehensive plan and the land development regulations. The PUD provides for controls and limitations that allow you to identify whether a particular project works within the guidelines of what we're proposing for this text amendment. So although this is a text amendment that allows citywide applicants to come in and incentivizes them to provide workforce housing, you still have the responsibility and the obligation to review each one individually as it comes in. The change to the comprehensive plan is minor. It adds a component into the existing language that allows for a maximum density of up to 10 dwelling units to the acre. An RH PUD would allow for up to 15 units to the acre. So this is still below what other PUDs and other residential developments could have with a density bonus. The land development regulation text amendment allows for the language to be added for a density bonus, which is consistent with other language in the code. It just allows the mixed-use development as a PUD to ask for that density bonus if there is a workforce housing component as part of that mixed-use community. Again, it is consistent with the goals of the comprehensive plan, which encourages workforce and affordable housing, and it provides the same opportunities that other PUDs are allowed to have. The rezoning is a requirement in order to go from commercial to mixed use. It will allow for this infill of a residential use, which is really ideally situated within, as I mentioned before, the walking distance of shopping, entertainment, employment, all of the things that you would strive for a mixed-use community. It is consistent with the vision plan and the goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan, and it reduces the development potential of the site not only from future development if somebody wanted to come in and redevelop, but also from the existing approvals that are granted for this property. The project has gone through traffic analysis for both the land use amendment and the rezoning. Under the land use plan amendment analysis, it has been identified that it will reduce the potential daily trips by 6,912 trips by 681. And the county and the city, the city's traffic engineer has indicated that the plan meets the standards of the county, and she has signed off on this as well. The site plan amendment also reduces the number of trips from what is currently approved for this site to what we're proposing. We're reducing the intensity and the density of the project from what has been approved to what we're proposing. Now, the difference here also, which is an advantage with changing the zoning and the land use and the actual use on the property, is that the peak hour trips that a residential use will provide go in sort of the opposite direction of what the office use that was approved for here would go in. So the peak hour trips are in an off direction on PJ Boulevard instead of adding to the peak direction on PJ Boulevard during those peak hours. The PUD and site plan amendment takes a project that was approved 22 years ago, which was originally approved for an 11-story office building and was since subsequently modified to a 6-story office building, to a 4-story apartment building over parking, which allows for 136 multifamily apartments and a 3,800 square foot clubhouse with amenities. Included in that proposal will be 14 units which are being set aside as workforce housing units. That's 35% of the density bonus, almost 35% of the density bonus. Those units will have guaranteed reduced rents for households with an annual income of less than 120% of the area median income. The initial rates that they're anticipating for the rental of those particular units will be much less than the market rates in the area. They're anticipated to be around $1,575 for one bedroom and $1,850 for two bedroom. And those will be adjusted annually based on how the annual income adjustments are made. There will be a 20-year deed restriction, which will be monitored by a third party, and reports will be provided to the city staff to ensure that they are complying with that requirement. Access and circulation into the site is from a multiple of locations. PJ Boulevard has an access point, so does Ellis & Wilson and US 1. There are also access points. Ellis & Wilson actually has 2 access points. There are another access point off of US 1 through the North Palm Beach project, which is to the south, allows for circulation around the property and into the site. The building is situated on the north end of Parcel F. There is, as I mentioned, apartments above the parking garage, so you would enter into the site, into the parking garage here, circulate around, and come back out. There's also access into the site at 2 spots here, one on the Rotary and one further south, which goes into the open parking area. The overall development is, as I mentioned, a 4-story building, 136 apartments, 76 one-bedrooms, 52 two-bedrooms, 8 three-bedrooms, all ranging in sizes from 700 to 1,250 square feet. There's a clubhouse with a fitness studio, a cyber cafe, conference room, common gathering areas, and bicycle storage room. They have a pool with a cabana, or with cabanas, outdoor kitchen, tables and chairs, shade structures, and lush landscaping. The parking under the garage provides 104 spaces, including 2 electric vehicle charging stations. And the parking on grade, which is open, provides 85 parking spaces. To the north of the building, there's a 25-foot landscape buffer. To the west of the building, adjacent to Ellison Wilson Road is also a 25-foot landscape buffer. As you move south along the parking lot, we have a conflict with utilities that reduces the landscape buffer in this area, but we have an 11-foot grade differential. Where you come from Ellison Wilson to the parking area, there's an 11-foot difference in the grade. So we have a retaining wall there, and we're respecting the existing utilities and that retaining wall and providing for landscaping on both the upper level and the lower level. Then we are also providing a pedestrian sidewalk connection which will complete the pedestrian system throughout the PUD and make the connection out to Ellison Wilson Road and make it much more convenient to get into and out of the PUD. The pedestrian connectivity for the PUD as it currently exists is identified in pink. The applicant is going to be providing, or the applicants, the property owner will be providing crosswalks at all of the major intersection access points. They will be providing additional pedestrian pathways throughout the parcel F that will connect the building to the existing pathways through the PUD. Those existing pathways through the PUD and the sidewalk go through a beautiful park area that's in the center of the project. It also provides access to the restaurants and the shopping that is within the parcel, as well as the access to the public sidewalks that are around the property along all of the outside perimeter roadways. The pool area has a number of amenities, including a number of seating options. As mentioned earlier, there will be an outdoor dining area that will be covered with a shade sail. There will be cabanas and lounges. There is a pool. There's a turf area where they can have yoga classes or play cornhole or other activities as apartment dwellers might do. There's also the fitness studio, which is open 24 hours a day. There's a media room, and there's a very large bicycle storage area for people that have bicycles that want to get around. The proposed architecture is a contemporary version of the existing PUD architecture, but it's been lightened and brightened, and it is a very nice complement to what is existing there. But it takes from the existing development some of the elements and tries to incorporate them in so that there's not a total disconnect. As I mentioned, the grade differential allows for the building to only be 4 levels, 4 floors high at the Ellison Wilson grade. The parking is below grade, and you don't see that from Ellison Wilson Road. The vertical and horizontal articulation has been modified as a result of coordinating and working with staff. The building provides balconies, decorative louvers, decorative banding, concrete tile roof, tower elements, and neutral colors that, as you can see on the bottom of the slide. Southwest view shows how the grade differential on the Ellison Wilson side will be screened by a retaining wall and landscaping. And then we have the elevation with the clubhouse. The clubhouse will be consistent with the style, colors, and architectural treatment of the main buildings, but it will also include an artificial ivy wall, which will complement the existing natural landscaping. All buildings will have decorative sconces and will be tied together architecturally. Here are some elevations that are not quite as descriptive as the 3Ds. The landscape plan includes a number of trees and shrubs that are consistent with the palette that is within the existing PUD. The applicant has agreed to increase the size of the plant material as it goes into the ground, which has allowed them to increase their points that they're providing in excess of what the code requires. They are also asking for a modification to the master signage program, which will allow them to incorporate the logo for the Solera project onto the sign. They will be utilizing the existing signage structure that is there and that is approved. They will just be allowed to use their logo and their lettering on that sign. We have two waivers that we're requesting. The first is an easement overlap waiver, which is a result of existing easements that are there from the beginning of the project approval. We have 2 Seacoast easements and a Florida Power and Light easement. We have taken those into consideration by providing for an additional buffer area adjacent to the building. It's been increased from 15 feet to 25 feet. And the area to the south, adjacent to the wall, as I mentioned, we have landscaping on the upper and lower levels. We have increased the size of the plant material, and we've increased planting around the building to offset and accommodate for this waiver request. We also have a landscape buffer waiver where we have this conflict of the utilities. There's an 80-foot section down on the southern side of the building where the buffer goes down from 15 feet to 12 feet, so we're asking for a 3-foot waiver for the length of 80 feet here. There are a number of public benefits that will be received by the city as far as the approval of this project. This is an infill development of a very long vacant parcel, which will bring the Sand Hill, create a beautiful community out of something that has been empty for a very long time. It does further the goals of the city by providing workforce housing units. It provides housing that's within walking and shopping distance of dining and entertainment. It completes sidewalk connections that have been missing. It provides the additional safety of the crosswalks at the entry points. It has double the amount of open space that's required by code. It has increased landscaping over what is required by code. It's less intensive than the potential commercial uses that would be allowed by code, and it's less intensive than the uses that are currently approved for the site. We have met our posting and signage and notice requirements. We have sent mailings twice, and the project has been posted with signs. If you have any questions, we have Jack Weir from Eastwind Acquisitions, which is the applicant. He is here in the audience today, so is Steve Matheson. Albert Cordell, is our architect, and Chris Hagan with Kimley Horn is our traffic engineer. And they're all here today if you have any questions of them. I know that Jack would like to address you if there are questions specific that he can answer. So.
Thank you. We're going to think that was a presentation, I'm sure, that spanned both Ordinance 9 and Ordinance 10.
Yes, I'm sorry. It does. In an effort to consolidate and present this, and knowing how long your agenda was, I should have asked you first. I apologize.
That's okay. We assumed.
Sorry.
But let's go back to just discuss Ordinance 9. Is there a staff presentation on Ordinance 9 directly?
Staff too has combined our presentation. However, we are happy to present the key information items that relate to Ordinance 9, but we have a combined presentation similar to the applicant.
Okay, so we don't have really a staff presentation on Ordinance 9. I don't have any cards on Ordinance 9 either, so we can close the public hearing. And let's get a motion and a second to approve.
I'll make a motion that we approve Ordinance 9 on first reading.
Okay, let's bring it back for some discussion. Matthew, do you have any questions or comments? Maria?
No, it's pretty clear.
Carl? Well, the only question that came through an email from one of our residents was concern about moving this type of discussion before we actually had a workforce housing consultant, but the language that is being cleaned up in our charter, I guess, is really designed to make sure that future uses and workforce housing uses are going to be well defined. So I just wanted to make that comment. So I don't see any other questions with ordinance 9 or any other concerns. So without any further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Thank you. Okay. And that ordinance 10, can I have the clerk read the title, please?
Ordinance 10, 2019, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, adopting a large-scale amendment to the comprehensive plan in accordance with the mandates set forth in Chapter 163 Florida statutes, specifically Section 163.3184 et sequentes Florida statutes, pursuant to application number CPMA-18-12-000027, that provides for an amendment to the future land use map in order to change the land use designation of 13.58 acres from commercial C to mixed-use development MXD, providing a notation on the future land use map pertaining to the permitted land use density and intensity related to the subject property, providing for a text amendment to the future land use element by amending policy 1.1.3.4C in order to provide a density bonus for mixed-use plan unit developments that propose a workforce or affordable housing component, providing for compliance with all requirements of Chapter 163 Florida statutes, providing for transmittal to the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity, DEO, providing a conflicts clause, a severability clause, and authority to codify, providing an effective date and for other purposes. Note to the public, there is a sign-up sheet at the front desk for anyone wanting additional information from the Department of Economic Opportunity, DEO.
Thank you. I'll open the public hearing. Are there any ex partes, Matthew?
Steve Matheson. Jack, I believe you did a presentation at the Economic Development Committee for the Chamber, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, there you go.
I actually have spoke with Steve Matheson a couple times on this project in favor of it.
And I spoke with Jack when I'm at his office and also with Steve and Ann in favor. Thank you. Okay. We already had the presentation. Is there any additional presentation or staff presentation about this particular ordinance 10?
Staff does have a very brief presentation, which includes and addresses Ordinance 10, Ordinance 11, and, of course, the site plan, which Ms. Booth presented. So if you will allow staff to briefly present that, we will be very concise.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Joanne Scaria, planner at the Planning and Zoning Department. I have been sworn in. I have a very brief presentation for you tonight. With your permission, I'll present a combined presentation of Ordinance 10, Ordinance 9, and Ordinance 11 with an overview of Resolution 31, although that's not on the agenda for tonight. The subject site the applicant has gone over. It's located at PJ Boulevard and US Highway 1. Parcel F has remained vacant since the original approval 22 years ago in 1997. I do want to point out that the original approval was for an 11-story, 167-foot office building with a retail, bank, and restaurant. And in 2000, that approved site plan was modified on Parcel F for a reduction of the building height from 11 stories to 6 stories and 105 feet, as well as landscaping and parking changes. And in 2004, that parcel did receive a vested build-out determination, vesting the approval for the office. So the request before you tonight is to modify that approval, to convert the approved office to a 136-unit multifamily apartment building on Parcel F with 14 workforce housing units. And there are comp plan text amendment, land use map text map amendment, LDR text amendment, and rezoning and PUD amendment petitions before you. The comprehensive plan text amendment is to take an existing provision that exists in the city's comprehensive plan for a density bonus for residential high PUDs and provide the same opportunity for residential portions of mixed-use PUDs. The mixed-use policy in the city's comprehensive plan future land use element does encourage affordable housing opportunities, but does not actually provide an incentive for these affordable housing opportunities. So the applicant is proposing to include that language for residential portions of mixed-use PUDs to create internal consistency in the city's code. A companion item is a future land use plan map amendment. The subject site is an existing commercial future land use area, and the applicant is proposing to modify this site to a mixed-use parcel. The applicant has demonstrated capacity in terms of level of service. The parcel as a mixed-use site is compatible with the surrounding areas, and there will be a note on the future land use map restricting the uses to the proposed mixed-use development program. The land development regulations you have already voted on, but just to give a recap, this modification provides internal consistency between the city's comprehensive plan and the city's code to provide that 3-unit density bonus for workforce or affordable housing projects. This is the existing provision in residential high, and the same language will be inserted under mixed-use PUDs. And then the last portion of the project is the rezoning from general commercial to mixed use on the parcel, as well as a PUD amendment to convert the approval for the office to a residential apartment building. For the rezoning, the mixed use project is compatible with the adjacent zoning districts. There is medium density residential approved and existing in the surrounding area, as well as commercial uses. And as with any project, staff took a close look at the surrounding area to see if the proposed rezoning made sense for the area. And as you can see, the future residents of this parcel will have close and convenient pedestrian access to a variety of services, 2 grocery stores and a pharmacy store, a range of dining options, office and personal services, as well as a strong pedestrian network and transit options. The site plan, Ms. Booth has gone over in detail, but includes 136 dwelling units, 4 stories of apartments over structured parking for a total of 61 feet and 9 inches, a nice clubhouse area with central courtyard, 189 parking spaces, including the first level of the parking of the structure with 4 stories above, and 14 workforce housing units. Just to give a quick overview of the workforce housing, this slide demonstrates the income limits for households that are affordable and workforce. The affordable addresses households that are less than 80% AMI, and workforce addresses households between 80% and 140% AMI. The applicant is dedicating 8 one-bedroom units and 6 two-bedroom units. This requirement will be deed restricted for 20 years and will be monitored annually by a third party. And just an additional layer, this applicant is further restricting the workforce element to be a maximum of the 121% AMI.
Go back. One slide.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I know. I want to refer to it, so that's good.
Okay. As with any conversion, staff did take a look at traffic concurrency. The site did receive a build-out determination and received a credit for the vested trips for the office. When you convert that office approval to the residential, there is a net peak hour trip reduction. Staff also took a look at access and circulation. The project does meet traffic TPS standards and concurrency requirements and was approved by the city traffic consultant. And staff is aware of the general traffic concerns in the area and took a look at some recent residential projects that were approved in the area, one being the Lenox North Beach project that was approved by the county in August of 2018, which includes 250 units. The proposed project is significantly less as far as daily trips, as well as AM peak and PM peak hour trips. And another project that's located in the city of North Palm Beach called the Water Club consists of 192 units, as well as 25,000 square feet of accessory office space, also significantly greater than the proposed use, which is proposing to reduce the approved office trips as far as AM peak hour and PM peak hour trips. The site has a strong existing pedestrian network, and the applicant worked with staff to improve upon that, creating key crosswalk connections that aren't existing on the site today. The clubhouse has gathering facilities, including a fitness center, community room, and lots of bike storage. And that connects to a central courtyard with a pool, lush landscaping, and nice furniture. The architecture is modern and contemporary in style, but incorporates some elements of the existing PUD and is made up of high-quality materials. The landscape palette is diverse and includes many species that will be installed at greater than code specifications. And there are 2 waivers associated with this petition that mainly deal with the existing landscape buffer along Ellis and Wilson and the existing utility easements that are in that buffer. One is to address the width of the landscape buffer adjacent to the parking lot, and one is to address easement overlap. The applicant has submitted renderings demonstrating the 3D look of the project, which gives a much better feel. And what will result is a very beautiful building on a long vacant parcel. And the petition has been properly public noticed, and staff is recommending approval.
Thank you. I do have 2 cards on this from members of the public. First, Rich Pizzolatto. Name and address for the record, please. Also confirm you've been sworn in.
Name is Rich Pizzolatto, 1618 12 Oaks, North Palm Beach, and yes, I have been sworn in. I didn't necessarily come here to address ordinance number 10, but what I really came to is to talk about the overall traffic impact of the PGA Bridge, and when it goes up, how it affects that area on a daily basis, especially in season. Right now, it's not too bad, but I'm going to read the following statement. I'm really here to request the city consider a traffic control device at the west end of the Littleworth Bridge to help alleviate PGA Bridge-induced traffic congestion. The traffic devices in question would be situated on Jack Nicklaus Boulevard, just east of the entrance to the Hidden Key community. Based on the already approved projects by the City of Palm Beach Gardens and the County of Palm Beach, some of which were referenced tonight, the area just east of the PGA Bridge in the US 1 corridor going both north and south of PGA Boulevard will continue to be developed both commercially and residentially in years to come. When the PGA Bridge is up, especially in season or on demand due to working barges, the traffic can be backed up along East Jack Nicklaus Boulevard for almost a mile. This gets exacerbated even worse since there's been 6 new buildings on Singer Island when the only exit and entrance are really either PGA or Jack Nicklaus Boulevard to PGA or the Blue Heron Bridge. Residents of Hidden Key and 12 Oak communities cannot even exit their properties when these bridges are up, or even after the bridges are up for some period of time. Shoppers are unable to exit or enter Oak Brook Square Shopping Center or that Publix from Jack Nicklaus Boulevard without taking their lives in their hands. Numerous accidents have occurred with congestion hindering emergency vehicles coming in and out of that. I've observed cars crashing into one another, drivers going westbound on the eastbound lanes just to snake through in the Publix, drivers on the sidewalk. It's just insane when that bridge is up and it's in season. Now, maybe it's because of the way our visitors come in and visit us. I don't know. As a result, I won't leave my house in 12 Oaks community without first considering the bridge opening and the traffic impact it'll have. Each year, the situation gets worse and worse, and it's just a matter of time until the situation becomes complete gridlock in an emergency scenario. I realize that growth is going to occur, and I'm only asking that the city study the merits of a traffic device or alternative solution at the base of the Littleworth Bridge that would employ only when the PGA Bridge is up and coordinate with the existing signals on PGA. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Elizabeth Bartram. Name and address for the record and confirm you've been
Yes,
sworn in.
good evening. My name is Elizabeth Bartram, and I have been sworn in. I am a resident of the community of 12 Oaks. I am a past board president, current resident, and current member of the board of directors. I also understand that my community and the remaining members of the board of directors have sent you a letter indicating the concerns that the community has, particularly from a traffic congestion standpoint with this current project as it has been indicated at this point. To give you some information here, the intersection which Mr. Pizzolotti has described to you, I'm sure many of you are familiar with, the congestion is so bad that many locals, I'm sure some of you may be aware, we call it the Please Go Around Bridge versus the PGA Bridge because of the amount of congestion. Channel 5, the local television station, as recently as January 30th of this year, took the time to go to the location, took video of the location, took time-lapse photography of the location during congested times, and gave approximate numbers in the excess of 28,000 vehicles transgress this intersection of US 1 and PGA Boulevard every day. To take my community of 12 Oaks, which is 197 units, similar to the amount of units that we are discussing tonight with this proposed project, those numbers translate in simple math to 394 cars if it's a two-car family in 197. That is a large number of vehicles trying to ingress and egress onto what is a designated hurricane evacuation route. The Singer Island, Lost Tree Village, and Hidden Key, and all of the condominiums that are located along Singer Island have only two means by which they can use those emergency access routes. They have that intersection that I just mentioned at PGA and US 1, or they have the option of trying to go through and over the Blue Heron Boulevard Bridge. The members of my community are deeply concerned that the traffic study indications are somewhat flawed, and we are requesting at this time, at the very least, that the council kindly consider some time to allow for more work and study to be undertaken. That's also not to say that we are not proponents of and don't appreciate the workforce resident issues. We are on board with that, as we should be. So thank you for your time. Please take this under consideration. It's a big issue in this part of the county.
Thank you very much for your time. That's all the cards I have, so we're going to close the public hearing. Can I get a motion and a second to approve?
I'll make a motion that we approve. We are at ordinance 10 at this time, correct?
Ordinance 10, yes.
I make a motion that we approve ordinance 10, 2019 on first reading.
Okay, let's bring it back for discussion. Carl, do you want to start this one?
Sure, I'm exhausted from the last two. I like this project. I do. I don't like the trips that an 11-story building would bring or a 6-story building would bring. They have excellent points as far as the traffic goes. I mean, there's no way getting around the fact is that State Road 786 PGA Boulevard is a cluster you know what when the bridge goes up. There's no way around that. So the part that I do like is this particular complex is going the way the city wants to go in the community with workforce housing. It's a direction probably most communities are going to start to go. And it's lower density. It's definitely lower trips. And the developer has a right to develop something that fits within the vision of our staff and the community. So I do, out of respect for the traffic, you know, maybe once they go look at one of those units and they get stuck at the bridge and they can never get to it, maybe they'll turn around and go look somewhere else. But this particular project fits for that development, for that area, and I'm going to be in favor of it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maria.
Well, can we talk about the workforce housing for a second? Okay.
Whatever.
I'm going to put my real estate broker hat on for a moment and address the workforce housing, because I think the workforce housing that's going in is actually a perfect model. And if you go in, and I did that this morning just to make sure I have my figures correct, there were 58 apartments available in the city of Palm Beach Gardens and North Palm Beach. And they ranged in price from $1,050 to $2,200. So when we qualify this as workforce housing, there's plenty of workforce housing in our community already. It's just not designated workforce housing. Continuing on that vein, if someone were to buy a $100,000 apartment and they didn't have any money to put down, because, sometimes with workforce housing, there is incentives to do down payments. But if they had no money to put down, so they had to pay private mortgage insurance on a $100,000 unit, including private mortgage insurance, the cost is $811 a month, which is less than renting. Now, if it were a $200,000 house, obviously it's double. That's $1,600. So the workforce housing is addressing that issue. You could go buy a unit for less. So I'm just, there are two, and by the way, in Palm Beach Gardens, there are 46 units. These are condos, because I wanted to compare apples to apples. 46 units that are $200,000 or less in the city of Palm Beach Gardens. And so I am in favor of the density bonuses for the workforce housing. I took pictures of the numbers, because if you wanted to rent a unit in San Mateo right now, a 1-1 would cost you probably $1,100 to $1,250. If you wanted to buy rent a 2-2, you're talking like $1,400 to $1,600. So we have in the city undesignated workforce housing. We're just giving it a name now. As for traffic, because traffic is always an issue, this property is entitled for a lot more traffic than what is being brought to us today. And if this is approved today, in perpetuity, we're going to have a whole lot less traffic than what they are approved for. But I also want to point out something that the city has just done, and it's called a mobility fee, not an impact fee. And the mobility fee is in place to encourage people not only to drive, but to walk and to bike. And this particular development is in a community, and if you want to pull that slide back up that showed all of the different services and restaurants and whatnot in the area, people are not going to be getting in their cars to go to the Twisted Trunk or to go to Doris's Market or to go to Publix. And if you look at what's in the vicinity and who is paying tax dollars, Golden Bear Plaza is paying $1 million, close to $1 million in tax dollars. And why do I bring that up? Because we want to make sure that there are people that can be employed by these businesses. And we also want to make sure that we have the opportunity for residents to work at those businesses. I mean, the list of who pays taxes in that area, PGA Marina, you've got 137,000, Prosperity Shopping Plaza, $362,000. We need, not only do we need people to work in those, we need people to service them, we need people to frequent them. So the fact that we're going to put in a development that has 136 units that are well within what is already in Palm Beach Gardens, this is, quite frankly, a no-brainer. So that was a long-winded way of saying I am in favor of this project.
Thank you.
Matthew, any comments?
It'd be hard to follow up on that. That was very comprehensive. My thoughts are just briefly, this is a beautiful project. I think it really enhances the gardens, and I know that Jackson will do a great job, and I look forward to seeing the project come to fruition.
Thank you.
you know, I agree with you. I try not to go over that bridge because it is very busy and it's a low bridge and there's not much we can change. And, you know, those are both county roads and the county would be the ones to address whatever issues to try to mitigate some of those things. But I think the key to all of these types of projects that come along is trying to put residential where people work. And the goal is that people shouldn't have to drive over that bridge every day to go to work. I know people do, but the idea is that if we can put a residential tower with some workforce housing in an area where there's a lot of employment opportunities around them, the goal is that the people that are going to choose to live there will actually work on that side of the bridge as well. So even though it's going to add traffic, certainly, the hope and the goal is that the people that go there are going to stay there. That doesn't mean that it's going to go away. It doesn't mean that the traffic is going to stop, but it will hopefully keep people close. So if someone currently is working in one of those offices on that corner and they live on the west end, perhaps they would consider moving to the east end. And ideally, that would be what you'd want to do. You know, workforce housing is such an issue, and it's great to listen to your review because I'm not an agent. I don't understand all of the implications of workforce housing and what the units are and where they're located. But certainly, there are places that you can purchase properties in and around the city. But in this particular spot, I think it's what we would like to see. The only joke that Maria and I had was that, you know, when did Mediterranean go out of style and everything's contemporary? So, but that's okay. The only other comment too is traffic studies are there for a reason. I mean, we talked a little bit about it when it was talking about the Costco earlier and again now, but you have to base your studies on something. And if you're not going to listen to the science of a traffic engineer, then what are you going to? Certainly you can question anything from anybody at any given time. But you have to have some assumptions that you're going to live with. And one of those things that we have to live with is the traffic engineer's assessments. And with that, I'm going to accept their numbers. And hopefully it'll be less. And hopefully we'll find ways for people to move in and around that area without having to get in their cars as our traffic-oriented design continues to evolve in the future. So with that, I have nothing left to add. So let's just bring it for a vote. Hearing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Motion carries 4-0. Thank you. Ordinance 11, please.
Ordinance 11, 2019, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, rezoning certain real property within the corporate limits of the City of Palm Beach Gardens consisting of 6 parcels totaling 13.58 acres in size, more or less, and located on the south side of PGA Boulevard immediately west of US Highway 1, known as the City Center Plan Unit Development, PUD. Providing that this parcel of real property that is more particularly described herein shall be assigned the underlying city zoning designation of mixed use, MXD, while maintaining the plan unit development PUD overlay, providing that the zoning map of the city of Palm Beach Gardens be amended accordingly, providing a conflicts clause, a severability clause, and authority to codify, providing an effective date and for other purposes.
Thank you. I'll open the public hearing. Any additional ex parte since ordinance 9 or 10? No. Same ones. Is there any other petition or presentation, staff presentation, anything different? Thank you. There's no additional cards on ordinance 11. So with that, we'll close the public hearing. And can I get a motion and a second to approve?
Motion to approve ordinance 11, 2019.
A second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No.
Thank you
4-0.
very
Thank
much.
you. Ordinance 13, 2019 on first reading. Can the clerk read the title, please?
Ordinance 13, 2019, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, providing approval for an ad valorem property tax exemption to Carrier Corporation over a 10-year period from the city, providing an effective date for other purposes.
This is a no-brainer.
Thank you. We'll open the hearing. Is there a presentation?
A very brief presentation. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Natalie Crowley. I have been sworn in. Ordinance 13, 2019 is the request from Carrier Corporation for tax abatement. The conceptual approval for this has already been approved by the City Council, along with a whole host of other incentives, which enabled Carrier Corporation to come to the city, build a beautiful facility, and provide 380 jobs through Project Diamond. That then was further expanded upon with Project Knight, in which an additional $25 million capital contribution was committed to, which brought an additional 100 jobs. So in total, the total economic benefit for the 5-year local economic impact is over $662 million, with the estimated capital investment, as I previously mentioned, of 115 initially, and then the additional 25. So with that, the application before you this evening is simply memorializing the approval that the City Council has already established, which was for 100% for the first 5 years, years 1 through 5, and a 50% tax exemption for years 6 through 10. This would commence January 1st, 2020, and would expire 2029. The fiscal impact has been evaluated by our finance administrator. At this point in time, there is fluctuation based on the assessment from the property appraiser, but it is estimated that the annual impact for this is $439,000, just a little over $439,000. As I previously mentioned, this application has been fully vetted, and based on the tremendous economic benefit that this corporation brings to the city, staff is recommending approval of Ordinance 13 on first reading. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no cards, so we'll close the hearing and get a motion and a second to approve.
I make a motion, we approve Ordinance 13 on first reading.
Second?
All right, let's bring it back for discussion. Matthew, do you want to start this one?
Can you put your microphone on, please?
This is a tremendous benefit to the community, and I would approve it.
I'm good.
I'm good. It's good.
All right, thank you. Any other further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None? Thank you. For Resolution 26, 2019, can the clerk read the title, please?
Resolution 26, 2019, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, amending the Regional Center Plan Community Development, PCD, located north of PGA Boulevard between alternate A1A and Prosperity Farms Road, as more particularly described herein, to add 116,862 square feet of health, physical fitness, weight reduction, and spa use, providing an effective date and for other purposes.
Thank you. We'll open the public hearing. Any ex partes?
Yes, I spoke with Kevin earlier today, and just briefly, I think that they've got a real jewel there in Kevin. The company, he's smart, he asks the right questions, and he's a pleasure to work with.
Maria?
Yes, I had an ex parte with Kevin and Steve Matheson, and actually, Kevin, thank you for coming to our mobility presentation the other evening. Appreciate that.
Carl?
Same?
And I've had multiple conversations with the applicant and Steve Matheson as well, all in favor of the project.
Correct.
Can we get a presentation, please?
Yes, sir, and if it would please the council, we have a combined presentation for both the PCD amendment as well as the site plan.
Have you been sworn in?
For the record, Donaldson Hearing with Kotler and Hearing, and I have been sworn in. Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. It is an exciting day for us to be here with the first step of the renovation and redevelopment at downtown at the Garden. So this is the cornerstone or the catalyst which will move us forward. My presentation is abbreviated, but I did want to take just a couple of minutes to recognize a few people. Of course, you know Kevin, who has really become integral to everything that we're doing at downtown at the Gardens, but we have several members of the senior leadership from ShopCore that are here. And so Brian Donnelly, who many of you have met, who is a VP with ShopCore, David Dieterle, who is an executive VP with ShopCore, is here. And we have one new member who you will be seeing. He will be a counterpart with Kevin, and his name is Steve Celio. and he has been brought on full-time to manage construction, not only of the Lifetime project, but as we continue moving forward. Just wanted to bring that to your attention, because this project has the full attention of the Shop Corps leadership from Chicago. Also with us this evening we have two representatives here from Lifetime. Mr. Scott Ferguson, who runs their construction department, and Brianna Reinbold, who runs their architectural management, project management, and project manager for this project. So very, very excited to be here. Mr. Chris Hagan is here as well with our traffic engineering firm. And of course, we have Caitlin Dean. And Caitlin, I'm sorry if I didn't have your new name. I think she just was married. Caitlin is here on behalf of Gunster, and of course we know Brian is somewhere sailing around the sea. So as pointed out in the staff report, there are two requests that are before you this evening. The first is a PCD amendment, which is really to amend the PCD to provide for the health, physical fitness, weight reduction, and spa use. So that's the first piece. And the second is the site plan amendment to the actual site plan for Downtown at the Gardens to incorporate the same, as well as to incorporate the proposed parking garage, 426 space parking garage, and the 3 waivers that we propose. You're all well aware of the regional center. So this is the regional center. At one time it was a DRI, but we rescinded that back in 2013. So now it is a traditional PCD as you know it. Tonight we're really just focusing on the piece that we refer to as Downtown at the Gardens. So this is the piece that's basically south of Gardens Parkway and immediately east of alternate A1A. Also includes the lake area. And more specifically, we're focusing on a 3-acre parcel, which is located on the north end of Downtown at the Gardens, basically east of Lake Victoria, south of Gardens Parkway, and immediately east of alternate A1A. So this is the area that we're focusing on. The affected area gets about 3 acres. It'll bring the total square footage at Downtown at the Gardens up to about 455,999 square feet. We're adding additional parking as well, which is identified in the staff report, so I won't get into those details. So this is the site of the affected area, the 3-acre area of the site that is actually being impacted by the redevelopment. Includes what we refer to as Building N, which will be the new Lifetime building, as well as a parking garage that's to the west, which is 426 spaces. And I point that out. I think that there might have been a Scribner's error in the title of the reso that said 462. There's actually 426 spaces in the building. So the Lifetime building, we do have a large outdoor seating area, outdoor activity area on the south side of the Lifetime building, intended to really spill over and to create some engagement to the area of downtown to further to the south. Is also to create that excitement as people are driving into Downtown at the Gardens. And then the parking garage. And I'll talk a little bit about the parking garage. It's really, we work very closely with staff. It's a tiered garage to provide additional architectural aesthetics. And we'll run through that briefly when we talk about the garage. To give you a little bit of insight into the circulation on the site, the entrance to the garage is located to the west, right here where I just put up the yellow and green arrow. And really by design, we've moved that circulation out of the way, so it's not in the main circulation, easy to access, but located in an area which is away from our pedestrian activity. We have a single entrance into the Lifetime building for basically control, for security. So everyone that goes in and out of Lifetime will go through a main lobby where they're known, people know that they're there, and then they leave through that, and that's for a security perspective. The main elevator core for the garage is located in the southwest corner of the garage, and that's done by design, so people will walk, they'll go straight down, and will be able to immediately walk across and directly into the Lifetime building. We've got other means of circulation to move in and out. You can move back and forth between the Cobb building or from the west if you wanted to park at Grade. You can even come from the east, northwest garage and come in. And at the same time, we have the ability to go back and forth to all of downtown. So we would anticipate, since this is really a full lifestyle wellness center with all the other activities that we have, restaurants at downtown, that there'll be a lot of engagement back and forth between the synergies between Lifetime and downtown, creating this renewed energy and life into the north end, but also then breathing in and creating connectivity to the south end of the site. We did spend a lot of time in working with your staff and our team and the Lifetime team, looking at how we not only look at the Lifetime building, the courtyards, the outdoor cafes, and how that hardscape begins to engage and connect over to what will be happening at downtown at the Gardens. So just point out a few pieces. Of course, the Lifetime building. These are the outdoor cafe areas. And within the Lifetime building, there's three different food venues of different types of food, always dealing with the concept of wellness and nutrition. I'll talk about our rooftop area, which is an interesting experience where we actually have a bistro on the roof deck of the building. Our crosswalks are illuminated, so as you would drive by, they have low, what I call almost hockey pucks that illuminate the crosswalks. That's just for added safety, help to define those areas, because we do want to create an area where we're slowing traffic down, we're creating a pedestrian environment. Cars are invited, but we want people to be invited as well. So on the roof deck, and just want to highlight this piece. Of course, within the main Lifetime building, they also have indoor swimming pools and whirlpools and spas. But actually on the roof deck, there is more of a leisure pool. It's really more of a resort type of an environment. They're outdoor cabanas. It's just a wonderful environment for people, as well as an outdoor bistro where someone could come up and have a bistro experience. So really intended to appeal toward the entire family, from the kids with children's programs and Children's Academy, Kids Academy, not only dealing with fitness but also tutorial programs, all the way up through every member of the family, with a lot of different things to do, so many different opportunities within the Lifetime building. To talk a little bit about landscape, of course, there was a lot of discussion in the staff report, but on our proposed plan, we have actually 184 either existing or new trees and palms around the building. I show you this picture because we have the benefit along Gardens Parkway, as well as on our site, to have some very nice mature oak trees. The majority of these will remain. And/or they will be relocated and utilized. The tree that's in front of you, which is one of the trees that's going to remain, actually has a 45-foot canopy and is about 45 feet in height. Just to give you an idea, it will really present a nice scale. I know when you look at the Admiralty building right here on the corner of PGA Boulevard and Military, those large canopy trees really change the whole setting and scale of the building. So that's we are preserving those within the site. Other plant materials include medjool, date palms, Japanese blueberries, and alike, all in a very multi-leveled, multi-tiered design. So just to kind of give you an idea of the amount of green that we have around the building, really a substantial amount of green space that goes around the building. The buildings are intended to specifically engage Gardens Parkway, so that really they hide kind of what we would say the visible parking fields, which is kind of an urban design technique that we'd like to use. So very nicely done. The architecture, and I'll go into this in a little bit of detail, really nicely done. We have the Lifetime building as well as the garage, and the building itself is cladded in what we call a Cordoba cream limestone, and then at the base we have a gray limestone. We have a lot of architectural metal canopies that are utilized, and then the mullions on all of the glazing is a natural, what we'd call a clear anodized glazing, so it's a little bit more of a contemporary, clean look, and the same materials are incorporated onto the parking garage. So the parking garage has a significant amount of architectural treatment, also incorporates what we refer to as longboard siding, but at the same time, we're providing a significant amount of landscaping, and the landscaping has been very intentional. You can see how it looks with the buildings, really intentionally designed to enhance the architecture of the building. So you see a palm, you put it in a specific location, it's there for a reason, to create the scale and to reinforce the great architectural design that we have. So again, 182 different trees around this one little 3.2 acre area that's affected by the site. So very nicely done, very nicely articulated. This is the east elevation of the building, and then the west elevation faces the garage. So you likely would not see that. So this is, as you're coming in the entranceway on what we call Lake Victoria, and actually you don't see all of the other landscaping that's in the median and at the entrance sign because you wouldn't really be able to see the building. But I do want to point out, you can see how intentional the incorporation of the trees are, where they're placed, the Italian cypress, how they've been utilized and incorporated at very key points within the building. Same thing with the date palms. And then this is just the garage landscaping, and again, the same materials that are incorporated in the building are incorporated into the garage. So the garage is just nicely articulated, and you could see this is the elevation as you would perceive it from alternate corner, and so you can see it's tiered. And a lot of efforts spent on architectural treatment to that garage, not just a functional garage, but a garage that also has great architectural treatment and design. A couple renderings quickly as I come close to closing. This is a rendering as you were sitting on Gardens Parkway and Lake Victoria, coming in the entrance. And so this is, you can see the building in the background, the great entranceway. So the material that you're seeing on the building, that is that Cordoba cream limestone, the glazing, the vision glass that's on the building, as well as at lower levels. Of course, you can't see it because of the landscaping is the contrasting charcoal limestone, and then the glass used around the building. Here's a view as you would come down Lake Victoria. You'd be making a turn at the first right, so you're looking at the view in front of Cobb. So here we've repeated the medjool date palms on the opposite side of Cobb. So we now have an array of date palms coming in the entrance. You can see the incorporation of these architectural metal canopies that provide some shade for the outdoor seating areas. Outdoor seating areas are nicely articulated, the additional pedestrian crosswalks. A lot of time spent with planters and all the things that we work with your police department on, and hardening buildings and making sure that they have CPTED safety and how we deal with that. They're there for aesthetic, but they also have functional purposes that we work very hard on with your police department. They're always trying to make sure that we're safe. We have 3 waivers. The first waiver that we have is relative to the building height. That's a 31-foot, 8-inch waiver. That particular waiver is very comparable to the Cobb building to the west, consistent really with the buildings that are within the overall regional center that's being supported by staff. And then we have 2 waivers related to signs. The first is to allow us to have a second principal tenant sign. And we have one principal tenant sign that basically faces interior to the project, so it faces basically Cobb, so it's not visible to the public right-of-way. And then we have one on the west elevation that is visible to the public right-of-way. And then we've asked for that the one sign that is basically facing Cobb be 48 inches in size. So that it, and I'll talk about that in a little bit, so it's better proportioned to the building, and you'll see that that is appropriate, and why we've asked for it to be slightly larger in terms of size, 48 inches versus 36 inches, it's well below the allowable maximum of 90 square feet. So, and I'll show you what that looks like. So this is that sign on the south elevation. So your code would allow us to have 36-inch letters. with a maximum of 90 square feet, and we have 48 inches, but we're only 70 square feet. Our other signs that we have are actually reduced. This is our building ID sign that's on the west elevation, so you would see this driving east coming in on Gardens Parkway. And this is 36 inches, so that's not a waiver, but it's just showing you here we're well below the allowable 90 square feet, less than half of what would be allowed by the code. And we have one third sign that I just show you. It's not a waiver, but it's on the east side of the building, very small 24-inch letters that we have. So with that, you see I've been pretty brief this evening, which is pretty good for me. I thank you so much. We are truly excited. Our entire team is here, including leadership from ShopCore and our folks from Lifetime. We're happy to answer any questions. And Kevin, would you like to say one word before we conclude?
I think I'll just
He'll
stay with your brevity.
He'll defer. So,
as everyone is attested by ex parte, I've said quite a few words already.
all right, so we'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you. Is there a staff presentation?
No additional staff presentations. Staff does recommend approval of Resolution 26 and Resolution 27.
Thank you. I don't have any other comment cards from the public, so we'll close the hearing. Can I get a motion in a second?
Sure, I move that we adopt Resolution 26, 2019.
Second?
All right, let's bring it back for discussion. Maria, why don't we start with you this time?
Well, I have to say that in doing some research on Lifetime and what they have built around the country, Coral Gables is a perfect example of, oh my God, that's fabulous. So, I mean, between having studio classes, a kids academy, a fitness floor, swim, cafe, spa, Lifetime workspace, that's an interesting concept, and Lifetime Living, you all seem to have checked a lot of the boxes that are important to an urban core of a city. And I think it's funny, because that property is a parking lot right now, you don't realize that that's where the building is going to go. It's not like it's green space. It's already got, concrete there. So, because I said, where's this going? And pulled it up as an aerial so you have a better idea of what it looks like. But I don't see any downside to this. So I am in favor.
Thank you.
Coral?
Sure, thank you. Some of my questions are going to be based on more the global vision of, because the community asked questions on how this was presented a couple years ago and went nowhere. So the community's still gotten involved in asking me questions, when this, when that, and so some of my questions might be more based outside of this one thing that we're voting on. First off, unlike the Bills project, I'd like to thank you guys for building relationships with council and staff and doing random presentations and communicating with everybody so we could build something that's beautiful for the community and that benefits ShopCore. I met with Brian and David, spoke with them, and quite frankly have built relationships with you people. So, for lack of a better term, you people. So, knowing downtown at the Gardens as well as I do, I also know that the north end of that along Gardens Parkway is kind of like a dead spot for parking. There's not a lot of parking that happens there unless you're going to park where Lifetime's going to go and you're going to bolt up to a movie. No one parks there and walks elsewhere. So overall, Don, how many parking spots are we taking up on the north end?
We're adding 426 spaces, and I believe that we're taking away about 200
So is there like 200 and something there now, and we're adding?
I'll tell you.
So we're gaining 200.
We're gaining about 200 spaces.
Okay. And there was a question that more than one person asked me in the community, like, why are we building another parking lot as opposed to using the existing one? And I know we haven't gone outside of this particular thing, and everything's got moving parts, but are we in design, is the thought to tear down the other parking garage or leave it?
The northwest garage will remain. And so
Northeast garage?
Northeast garage will remain. And so as we add the parking and we look toward future development, we look toward the changes in what might happen with mobility and transit. We keep all that in mind, and all of that is being addressed, and also to provide for the future build-out of some of the things that we'll be looking forward to in the redevelopment.
I brought it up because it was a good question that the community, a couple people have asked me in the community, so I just wanted it out there. And I wasn't 100% sure that possibly something else was going to go there. So, you know, I appreciate your relationship with staff, and, you know, I look forward to this aggressively moving forward, as we've spoken in the past, to have a bracketed timeline where we are getting new issues brought to staff. So this is moving and done in the next few years.
We will be making a request tomorrow morning for our pre-permit meeting, and we'll take advantage of that as soon as that is offered, followed by our pre-construction meeting. So we wish to move forward as quickly as we can. Obviously, everything takes time to permit,
Understood.
but we're well into that way. And I can tell you that Kevin signed the pre-application forms and gave us his signatures yesterday, and we are eminently preparing to submit for a pre-application on the larger picture at downtown, and so we're very excited about that. We've been asked by staff to hold off making that submittal until we were done with this, but we're ready to come in, and I know they've got lots of stuff on their plate, but this will be a very exciting time for all of us.
And well, just a final comment. I know that I had mentioned that Costco services the entire community. This particular piece of land is like and I've done my diligence trying to convince all of you guys with ShopCore that this is probably the most pivotal piece of property in the city of Palm Beach Gardens. Everything rotates around it. And it will be done right. We'll all be involved in it. And obviously we have a great staff. So, you know, hopefully globally we'll all have a project that there'll be so many people there every night. It'll be really something to look forward to. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Matthew?
Yeah, briefly, I've done my due diligence also into Lifetime, and I've studied it. It looks like a great addition to the gardens. I've also
Can you please speak into the microphone?
Sure. I've also spoken to other people who've been to Lifetime, and they have great things to say about it. I don't think that this adversely affects any of the neighbors, and as we go forward in the development, we definitely need to be very cognizant of how this affects our residents, our current residents who live at Landmark.
Thanks. You know, my first thought, like always, seems to be why. You know, what are we doing here? But as Carl said, and you know, basically you kind of read my mind all the way through. My biggest question to you, Kevin, was always, what's the bigger picture? Because if it's just going to be a Lifetime in a garage, then so what? Downtown at the Gardens is really supposed to be the center of our town. It's supposed to be the place where we take our families and friends and go and be a part of something bigger than just a place to grab a meal or go to the gym and go home. Because if that's all it's going to be, then it's really nothing all that exciting to me. I mean, Lifetime is a very neat concept, and it's a great business model. And one of my staff members, his girlfriend works at the one in Boca, and they always talk about how great it is to go there. But for me, it's really making sure that downtown at the Gardens becomes downtown at the Gardens, a place where we all can go. And we've been taken down this road a few times in our time on council and before that too, where someone comes in with these grandiose plans and they splash it in the newspaper and talk about how wonderful it's going to be, and then they leave. And it kind of leaves us with this jewel of a spot, like the center of our town, that doesn't have the amenities and the excitement that really it's supposed to be. So I know that pre-applications are coming in tomorrow. That's wonderful news, because for me, without that part of it, it's not that exciting to me. But I know that this is going to be a part of a bigger picture that makes all of it that much better. And I thank you for all the conversations we've had, because that's the most important thing to me as a resident of the city. And not only that, as we were talking as well about mobility, and thanks again for coming the other night, but this is a part of that. And you guys already got plans for the next phase to include shuttle space, incorporating whatever design we're going to have into downtown, which obviously benefits you, benefits your tenants, benefits the project as a whole, because you want to draw people into it. So being a partner in all of this is really important. And I know you live in Chicago and you got a little boy and you want to go home to him too, but this is our town and we're grateful for you to be here as much as you are. You surrounded yourself with really good people that really understand our city, and that's the commitment that I want to make sure we see going forward.
Well, I just want to echo that back, and it's wonderful. You heard several senior people from ShopCore are here tonight. I think on both sides, this is not only the Lifetime piece is a cornerstone, but we both hold in high regard the potential for downtown at the Gardens, and on both sides, we want to see that realized. So we look forward to working with you further.
Thank you.
Kevin, I have one more question, sorry, Mayor. Just because I asked the Bills people the same question, and I know you probably can't put up Lifetime unless you have it, but just for a matter of a sunshine question, you actually have a contractual obligation with Lifetime in writing, in hand, and there's no what-ifs, there's no, just like the Bills project, there's no letter of intent, no nothing. This is done as far as Lifetime being on board with this vision.
We do need the approval on your side.
But you
But
have it in
other than
writing,
that,
correct?
we have a fully executed
Okay,
agreement.
thank you.
Mark, I have any.
Go right ahead, Maria.
Who will retain ownership of the actual building itself?
The landlord, ShopCore.
Can you speak into the microphone, please?
ShopCore, the landlord will,
And one more question.
as well as the parking deck.
Okay, thank you. One more question. Did we receive comments from Landmark about this project?
No comments have been received
Okay,
from,
'cause I didn't-
by staff.
I didn't receive any either, so I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Who are the Lifetime principals, by the way? If you can just raise your hand so I know who you are. Thank you. And the
It's,
ShopCore?
both actually are, it's Scott Ferguson, Development Manager, and Brianna Reinbold, a Project Manager. Brianna, the role will transition to Brianna. She's already had a preliminary meeting with city engineers.
In ShopCore? Where are the ShopCore principals? Back of the room. Very nice. Well, I appreciate your commitment, and we're going to hold you to your commitment as well. It's going to be wonderful, and you guys are going to do really, really well when it's all said and done. So with no other discussion, can I get a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All in 4-0. Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Resolution 27. Can the clerk read the title?
Resolution 27, 2019, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, amending the site plan for downtown at the Gardens located on the east side of alternate A1A between Kyoto Gardens Drive and Gardens Parkway to allow a 116,862 square foot Lifetime Health Club facility and 426 space parking garage, providing waivers, providing conditions of approval, providing an effective date and for other purposes.
Thank you. Is there any presentation? Is there any staff presentation or petitioner presentation?
None, no additional presentation, nothing has changed for this resolution.
Patty, did you read 426 spaces or 462?
It is 426. That is a typo in the reso title, so that'll be changed tomorrow.
But the clerk read it correctly as the
I read it
She
correctly.
read it correctly as the 426, as corrected. The two numbers were transposed.
Thank you. Okay, well, without any other comments, there's been no public comment or cards, so we'll close the hearing. Can I get a motion and a second to approve?
I make a motion that we approve Resolution 27, 2019.
Second.
Please roll call. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? 4-0. Thank you very much. Okay, Resolution 30, 2019. Can I have the clerk read the title?
Resolution 30, 2019, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, approving art in public places for the PGA Station Plan Unit Development, PUD, Building 5, located on the northeast corner of Arcia Boulevard and Design Center Drive, is more particularly described herein, providing conditions of approval, providing an effective date and for other purposes.
All right, we'll open the public hearing. Any ex partes on Resolution 30? No, no, no. All right, presentation. Nicole?
Hi, good evening, Council. I'm Nicole Plunkett with Kotler and Herring, and I have been sworn in. Tonight, I present to you, along with our applicant Brock PGA Hotel, LLLP, our art in public places. We do have our artist here tonight, Mark Fuller, along with Derek Brock, who's with the applicant. Landscape architects and planners are Kotler and Herring, along with Krant Whelan Design. Tonight, our request is to fulfill the AIPP requirement for the City of Palm Beach Gardens, and we're requesting approval of 2 sculptures. Very quickly, everybody is pretty familiar with Mark Fuller. He's not only done work here in our city and throughout the state of Florida, but he's done multiple pieces throughout the United States as well. The location of the site is along PGA Boulevard and RCA Boulevard. The site itself is actually located within the PGA Station PUD, which is approximately 30 acres in size. You can see the hotel site identified in red on your screens. Taking a closer look at the site plan, I want to show you the 2 locations of our art pieces. The first art piece, called Antennas to Light Number 1, is located at the main intersection of RCA Boulevard and Design Center Drive. And if you're familiar with this location, it really is going to be the main entrance to the PGA station, which has been a very big discussion for a lot of us for many, many years. So we wanted to provide an art piece here that would really make a statement and provide an entrance to this location. The second art piece, Antennas to Light Number 2, as you'll see coming up with the renderings, is a play off of the first one. So the 2 pieces relate to not only provide an entrance to the site, but also to provide a functionality as well, to provide wayfinding. So somebody who enters the site looking for the hotel can easily enter into Design Center Drive, see that first sculpture, pull into the hotel, and see that secondary sculpture. Looking at a rendering of that intersection, the first sculpture is located right in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, right where my mouse is. If you've been by the site recently, you know that the hotel is very much under construction. It's going to be a 5-story hotel with a 64-foot approximate parapet. This sculpture right here is 16 feet tall and about 16.5 feet wide, with a 3-foot depth. Taking a closer look at the sculpture, it really is made up of aluminum plate base finished in high gloss yellow. When you drive past it, you can see the yellow in the back, and it kind of moves as you go past it. The yellow itself not only provides some visual interest, but it relates to the inside of the hotel as well. When you walk inside the hotel, those same tones are within the lobby. And it has rather easy maintenance. It's very similar to the materials over at the Molecule off of Donald Ross. So it's very easy: soap, water, wash, and wax. Easy to maintain. A couple of pictures to walk you through to understand the pedestrian scale of it. It will also meet, both sculptures will meet building regulations and wind loads up to 170 miles per hour. Taking a quick look at the landscaping, we did have an original landscape design approved for this area, and what we did was complement it. So we provided European fan palms, blue glow agave, and also filled it in with ficus green island. So it really just enhances this feature right here on the corner of the intersection. And of course, it's going to be lit. We're going to meet the lighting requirements. It will be lit from dusk until dawn. And the spotlights are located here. This one in particular will have 6 spotlights. Staying on this intersection, we do have a particular request to relocate 3 existing sable palms that are within this corner. We want to provide better visibility, not only for the art piece and the entrance to the site, but also for the safety of the drivers coming in and out of the site. So we're just looking to move them right down the right-of-way a little bit north. And these new locations of the Sable Palms are not going to conflict with any other buildings. They're still in front of the hotel. We're not pushing them in front of any other buildings that could possibly block signage. Taking a look at the second sculpture. The second sculpture, as I mentioned, I went through that too fast, is right here at the entrance of the porte cochere. So as you can see, it's made of the same material, it has the same maintenance, and provides that functional wayfinding quality that we want within the center of the art. The scale of it is 8 feet tall, 14 feet wide, and 2 feet in depth. And again, it has a similar aluminum plate high gloss yellow with the mirror polish stainless steel. Similarly to the first sculpture, this one had a little bit more difficult requirements for the landscaping because it's under a porte cochere. It's completely covered. So we wanted to make sure to propose plants that would have the highest chance of survival and to really look great coming into this entrance. So we're proposing the Rojo Congo philodendron along with Ficus Green Island in this area. And again, same requirements. It will meet the lighting requirement from dusk until dawn with 4 spotlights. These particular art sculptures will each have their own plaques, and they will have the title, the artist, the year, and also just to pay tribute to the art in public places within the city of Palm Beach Gardens. The estimated cost of the vertical construction is $17 million. We do meet the 1% vertical costs, which come up to $170,000. And not only do we meet it, but we exceed it. Our total art costs are approximate at $200,000. And one last item, when it comes to the timing of everything, as I mentioned, the hotel is currently under construction. Once we're able to start the manufacturing and creation of these art pieces, it will take approximately 3 to 4 months to create the art pieces. Once we're able to install them, it'll take approximately 1 to 2 weeks for the foundations, and then 3 to 5 days for the sculptures after all the foundations have cured. And we do have the applicant and the artist here if there are any additional questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a staff presentation?
No additional staff presentation. Staff recommends approval of Resolution 30, 2019.
I don't have any comment cards, so we'll close the public hearing. Can I bring it back for a motion?
I make a motion, we approve Resolution 30 on first reading. Oh, never mind. It's the only reading.
Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
All right, let's bring it back for discussion. Anybody have any comments or discussion?
Great job in your presentation, Nicole.
Thank you.
I think it's a lovely addition, and I like the work itself. Thank you.
Thank you.
I had two comments at staff. One was make sure that it's not easily accessible for kids to be climbing because it is low and you got those neat little spots where some people might want to find a way, but it's landscaped around it, correct?
Right, and that was something important that we did work with staff to choose particular plants that may look a little bit spiky to actually deter visually from anybody trying to climb on it.
Okay. And I noticed it was a 5.2 on the AIPP. I love Mark's work. I guess he does a lot of work in the city. Was that the comment?
Yes, the two board members that opposed the project were opposing the project primarily because Mark Fuller was the artist.
Well, Mark, I like your art, so I don't have a problem with you doing that. So,
Who are those two members, for the record?
Robert Koo and Vincent Casanetti.
Okay, thank you.
all right. Any other conversation, comment? Hearing none, can I get a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? 0. Motion carries 4-0. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving along. Resolution 38, 2019. Can you read the title, please?
Resolution 38, 2019, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, approving a site plan for a 12,087 square foot clubhouse and recreation facility on 8.99 acres located within the Avenir Plan Community Development PCD that is generally located on the north side of North Lake Boulevard, east of Greatview Boulevard, west of Bay Hill Drive, and south of Beeline Highway, as more particularly described herein, providing conditions of approval, providing an effective date for the purposes.
Thank you. We'll open the public hearing. Are there any ex partes? I met with Rosa a couple weeks ago in discussions with just some basic discussions. Obviously, she was in favor of it. Petitioner presentation, Ken?
Good evening, Ken Tuma with Urban Design Kildare Studios. My address is 610 Clematis Street, West Palm Beach, Florida, 33401. I have been sworn in. I am going to do an much abbreviated presentation. If there are comment cards, I would like the opportunity to go back to my slideshow if there are comment cards or public. Thank you. I'm going to jump right to slide 15. We're here today on behalf, well, I think I'm going to jump right to slide 15.
Slide 15 out of 16?
Yeah. It's pretty close, sir.
Hurry up.
Look what you're skipping. All this excitement. Okay. So very quickly, the clubhouse that is in front of you tonight, this is a request for the Avenir Recreation Area. The clubhouse is about 12,000 square feet. There's approximately 17,000 square feet that's under air. There's significant canopy area and throughout the clubhouse. We have our whole design team, including our architect, here this evening. But just very quickly, the clubhouse identified on the screen in front of you is in the upper right-hand side here. The land area is located here adjacent to the oval about, which you all approved about in August of 2018. One of the key design characteristics for the clubhouse is the linear relationship to the clubhouse in regards to the oval about. It created this nice, correct linear relationship. There are 8 tennis courts, 6 pickleball courts, a clubhouse, and then an outdoor tot lot. Let me walk you through a couple quick details. The subject site's 8.99 acres. It's a 12,000 square foot clubhouse. There's a swimming pool, a lap pool, and a spa, 2 tot lots with covered and shaded areas within those tot lots, 6 pickleball courts, and 8 tennis courts. So here's a view of the site, and this is an important view of the site. As you enter into the Avenir Clubhouse, you'll notice the medules on the right-hand side. But here at this entranceway, you can see the sidewalk coming out. That sidewalk is that linear relationship that goes to the center of the oval about. The clubhouse, from here on the left-hand side where these folks are on the sidewalk to where its elevation is about elevated about 4 to 6 feet. So you're actually driving up into the clubhouse. It's a nice look and a nice feel. Here are some medjool palms as you pull into the entranceway. You'll notice the design and the construction Mr. Stoft has done. It is Bermuda's design. It is British colonial architecture and is intended to serve parcels 1 through 9 of Avenir. There is a significant amount of parking. In fact, we received a comment from the Planning and Zoning Board, which we implemented was, hey, add some more parking spots. We did. We added more parking spots. We have 90 parking spots, 25 golf cart spots, 30 bicycle spots. There are a significant amount of outdoor recreation facilities, which I'm sure you have seen throughout your review of the site, including trellis features along the lakefront. So a quick view of the outdoor activities. The outdoor activities are an important part of the Avenir Clubhouse. As I said earlier, 8 tennis courts, 6 pickleball courts, the tot lot. There's also an important part, as you know, in Avenir, mobility through the golf cart path is a very important part. There's a 12-foot golf cart path that goes through the middle. There's also an ingress-egress point to the parcel to the east. That will be a gated ingress-egress point that will go through the wall. Here's a view of happy people playing pickleball, children playing on the courts, and the idea of the clubhouse at Avenir. So the idea of Avenir Clubhouse, though, it is something for everyone. There are tot lots for children's 5, and all the way up, some people say seniors play more pickleball than other people. So the idea, everything is within the Avenir Clubhouse to deal with all age ranges that will live in Avenir. So this is a view of the clubhouse from the back. This is a view of the clubhouse from the rear to kind of give you an idea of what it looks like. You can see the 12,000 square foot structure. Here's a view of the tennis courts on the right-hand side, and here are the pickleball courts. Here's some of the tot lot and play equipment. The walking areas where you have the opportunity to view the lakes, and here's a trellis feature, and then here's the clubhouse. Let me walk in just a little bit more detail about the building, and I'll be done. So here's the site looking in plan view. You'll notice that there's a pool in the back, and there's also a lap pool, and there's all types of other features. In the clubhouse itself, on the left-hand side is the large area that's open and available to use, and on the right-hand side is the gymnasium facility, and then you have this kind of center area here for the area within the kitchen. So here's a view of the drop-off, and this is an important part of the project as you look into the project, and this is a photorealistic rendering. You will see this when you drive out the Avenir in a few years. You'll see this design. You'll notice the palm trees coming in on the right-hand side and left-hand side. There is not a porte-cochere. That is not part of this form of architecture. There is a drop-off point. There's a gym and aerobics room that is located on the right-hand side of your screen. On the left-hand side, again, it's a large event space. We have locker rooms, and then there's a cafeteria. So as you walk in, there'll be a cafe in the back. So this is the view of Avenir's clubhouse looking from the rear. And this really explains what happens when you come to Avenir and you come to the clubhouse. Again, on the right-hand side, the larger event area within the clubhouse. On the left-hand side is where the gymnasium and the physical facilities are. But on the outside in the screen, you can see the lap pool here, the overhang porte-cochere. This is a fire pit right here. This is an outdoor splash. This is an outdoor splash pad. This is a significant pool. And then there are these cabana features throughout the area. So you have a nice, safe area and comfort area during all times of the year. But the important feature of this that I want to note that's different from this clubhouse is there's a significant amount of outdoor covered space. And this area where my mouse is outdoor covered space. So people have the opportunity to eat and relax, a place to go, to have a drink on a Friday night, whatever you want to do. But what's that going to look like? And so on the next slide, as you're sitting within that area, this is your view of Avenir Clubhouse. It's a nice, relaxing environment for everyone to enjoy. And again, it has all types of facilities from everyone from 5 years old to whatever age you want to be to go play in the Avenir Clubhouse. There, in summary, there are no waivers. We have staff recommendation of approval. We have 81% open space and a significant amount above the required landscape architecture. Again, I have a full presentation, but I thought I'd do the Reader's Digest for you this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a staff presentation?
No staff presentation. Staff recommends approval of Resolution 38, 2019.
I have no cards on this, so we'll close the hearing. Motion and second to
I
approve.
move that we adopt Resolution 38, 2019.
I'll second.
Okay, going back for discussion. Matt, you want to start the discussion?
Sure, I'm going to be very brief. I think that this is consistent with everything else that's going on at Avenir. It's an incredible project, and this is very well thought through, and I think it's going to be a wonderful contribution to our community.
Thank you, Councilmember Lane.
Maria?
Thank you for the brief presentation. But, you know, we did have the staff presentation too, so we got the idea. It's funny when we see the presentations and we see them in 2D versus 3D. It's an amazing difference. So really like the 3D pictures much better. Well thought out. Pickleball is, yes, one of the fastest. It is, I think, the fastest growing sport in the United States. So happy that you're including that in your plans. I do not plan on playing pickleball. I do believe that Bert Primoroso hurt himself playing pickleball. You know, I know it's for the older generation, but I think I'll stick to the golf course. Nice project, well thought out, good communication between the petitioner and staff. We always are thankful for that. And I will vote to approve.
Carl?
There's nothing left to be said. It's, you know, it's good.
Are there charging stations for the golf carts at the clubhouse?
Actually, in the design right now, we do not have charging stations proposed. We've actually separated the golf cart parking further away from the clubhouse, and that was done on purpose so we didn't have the two traffic coming together, and that's the reason why we did that. But we do not have golf cart charging stations, and there's there's a different types of golf cart chargers also.
Okay. Well, I think that's the best part about the whole community is the interconnectivity, and people don't have to get in their cars. I'd rather see more golf cart parking spots than regular, but I understand logistics. I really have no other comments. It's going to be great. This is part of the HOA fees, though, right? Is that right for the?
This is
for the
actually
residents?
owned and constructed by the Community Development District, so it would be owned and operated by the CDD, not an HOA.
So when any resident can go at any time, it's just
Any resident within the communities, the first 9 communities that are part of this project, are allowed to go within the facility.
Okay.
And I want to just address one thing, because I didn't identify that earlier. The active adult component will not participate in this. They will have their own clubhouse, a significant size clubhouse within the community.
Great. Thank you. All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Motion carries 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Resolution 40, 2019. Can you read the title, please?
Resolution 40, 2019, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, approving an agreement with Strategic Planning Group Incorporated under request for proposals number RFP 2019-054PZ to develop a workforce housing program for the city, providing an effective date for other purposes.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Can I get a staff presentation, please?
Good evening, City Council. For the record, Kumra, Purchasing and Contracts Director, and assisting me with this presentation will be Joanne Scaria, Principal Planner with the Planning and Zoning Department. Also present is Natalie Crowley, Director of Planning and Zoning. The background to this is that the city received or expects to receive $5.55 million from developers to develop a workforce housing, affordable housing projects in the city. The city does not have a comprehensive workforce housing program and needs to hire a consultant to guide the city in how to do this. After an initial engagement, the city intends to keep the consultant on board for a period of approximately 5 years and use their resources on an as-needed basis. The new program will incorporate the city's existing policies on affordable housing, and Joan will come up and talk to you about exactly what we're trying to achieve.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Joanne Screer at the Planning and Zoning Department. I have been sworn in. As you all are aware, the city has been so fortunate to experience a lot of growth in recent years, but with that growth does come challenges, preserving the natural environment, dealing with transportation and mobility, and the subject of this presentation, dealing with housing. The housing market crisis has definitely been in the news and in the headlines, and we feel it here in our community as well as throughout the county and throughout the nation as well. And so the city has begun taking steps addressing these issues through the Community Development Block Grant Program, through policies that have been adopted in our comprehensive plan, through conditions of approval and specific development orders, and participating in local area events regarding housing. But we've also been fortunate to have 2 revenue sources, one from Avenir, where they have contributed $5 million toward a workforce housing fund, and then from Arcadia Gardens, where they've they will be contributing $550,000 toward a workforce housing fund. So what is workforce? You're familiar with this slide. The households that fall within that red box, that are less than 80% AMI, are considered affordable, and then everything from 80 to 140 is considered workforce. And then what can be included in a comprehensive workforce housing plan? Well, what we envision is a menu of incentives that provide a variety of sources of incentivizing workforce housing. So that could be in the form of impact fee credits or waivers, building permit fee credits, or expedited permitting, land acquisition, public-private partnerships. There are a lot of opportunities that staff is aware of currently and have brainstormed, and we also would like the advice and opinion of a professional consultant that has deeper experience in these areas and can provide a custom tailored list of recommendations for staff to take into consideration as far as a comprehensive workforce housing program and plan. And with that, I'll turn it back to Kumrad to go over the scope and the rest of the project.
So there's certain deliverables that the consultant will have to achieve. The first among them is to review the city's comprehensive plan, including the housing element, review the provisions of the state of Florida's laws related to workforce and affordable housing, research and analyze the housing market trends in Florida, specifically South Florida and Palm Beach County, examine and review affordable workforce housing policy and procedures of other entities, other cities, and what they have implemented, research the demand for affordable and attainable workforce housing in South Florida and Palm Beach County, review available data and studies in South Florida, including those pertaining to Palm Beach County and its current regulations. They'll analyze specifically the affordability of housing in Palm Beach Gardens. They'll review available parcels of land and conduct a suitability analysis to determine ideal locations in the city for workforce and affordable housing. They'll work with city staff, specifically the Planning and Zoning Department, to organize and facilitate workshops so that they can get input from the community and residents on this program. They will meet regularly with city stakeholders and develop an actionable implementation schedule that will assist the city with establishing a workforce housing program. And of course, during the process, they'll meet regularly with city staff regarding updates and progress towards the project. And so to get all of this done, we have to advertise a request for proposals. We did in February. We got 3 proposals. The selection committee met twice, and the award recommendation was posted in April. The 3 proposals were BAE Urban Economics from California, Housing Leadership Council of Palm Beach County from West Palm Beach, and Strategic Planning Group of Ponte Verde Beach. The selection committee met, reviewed the proposals, and they determined that based on the proposal from Strategic Planning Group, they offered the city the best combination of expertise and price. The company has been around since 1983. They have done workforce housing consultancy services for many cities, including Coral Gables, Palm Beach County, City of Sunrise, Delray Beach, and North Miami. This is the scoring sheet, and you can see they scored Strategic Planning Group significantly higher than the other 2 proposals. The initial engagement will be about $65,000, and the estimated ongoing consultation, again on an as-needed basis, is about $25,000 a year for 5 years. And staff is recommending approval. Any questions?
Sorry, thank you. Can I get a motion and a second to approve?
I'll make a motion, we approve Resolution 40.
I'll second.
Let's bring back for discussion. Any discussion?
I just have an observation.
Please.
I think it's quite interesting that the Housing Leadership Council, which came here to speak on affordable housing several months ago, and should have really scored higher than they did, is, I don't know, doesn't bode well. But I do appreciate the fact that we are taking on this effort. As I said earlier, we do have affordable housing in the city of Palm Beach Gardens. It's just not called that. So if we can actually have a program that defines what affordable housing is and how we can help those who are in need of workforce housing, affordable housing. There are a lot of different classifications that have different economic indicators. And I do want to stress that this is workforce housing. We need housing for our nurses, for our policemen, for our firemen, for the service professionals that service all the things that we do. We are a service business. The city is a service business, and we do need to be able to have people living in our city that are performing those services. So I applaud the city for doing this. I know at the Avenir people just walked out the door, but we did get a little pushback from some people about what they did, but at least by putting their dollars in our coffers earlier than the possibility of 20 years later building the units that they were entitled to. I think this is something that is a positive for the city and sets us a little bit apart because we do lead by example, and that's what we're planning to do here.
Matthew?
I have nothing to add.
Carl?
I have nothing to add on Maria's point. It's well said. Thank you.
Yeah, because this is like building a building that has energy efficiencies and not getting a LEED certification. You know, sometimes you weigh the importance of that. But ultimately, I look forward to hearing the report from, I look forward to talking to them and then figuring out what we're going to do about addressing this problem. And I think we're going to find some really good, innovative solutions for our city. So other than that, do we have any other discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion carries 4-0. Thank you. All right, so now we're going to get into items of council discussion. The biggest issue that we need to discuss first before we get into anything else is the city manager annual evaluation. We do this once a year in public, so if anyone has any specific comments, I think we should address them now. Carl, would you like to start?
Sure. I guess this is the third time I've sat down with the city manager and evaluated, and based on how I got elected or appointed or whatever you want to, it was thin ice for both of us because we didn't know each other. But in the last 3 years, you know, I don't know how to be a council member. I'm still learning this job, and I guess I'm doing something right because I won by 80%, and that's not trying to be an egotistical thing, but it's really being accountable to the community, and I wouldn't know how to do that unless Ron taught me how to be a council member. So he's become, and it really doesn't matter to me what the community thinks as far as my opinion as the city manager goes, but he's become a friend and a mentor. And personally, I think that if you look at, let's just use the police department as an example, a contract that got negotiated through, 100% of the employees voted on that. Our community's in a good position. Staff is happy. The community's happy. This council went the direction of building parks and infrastructure in the very beginning when we all first got elected, however we got here. And I think the city overall is better than it was before we got here. And I think Ron's better, the staff is better, we're better, and we wouldn't be in this position if it wasn't for Ron. So, you know, I appreciate you, sir, and I look forward to working with you as long as you would like to be here, because you can leave whenever you want, and we hope to have you around for a while, because we have a lot of work to do in the next several years. So thank you, sir.
Matthew.
Sure. In evaluating a manager of a very large business, which our city really is, I look at 3 measures of his or her performance. First, is the manager effective in recruiting the right people? Second, is the manager able to retain these people? And third, what's the manager's vision? And is he or she successful in implementing that vision? And I think, judged by these metrics, I believe that we have a truly exceptional city manager. Look at the dedicated and talented staff that we have the privilege to work with every day, and the outstanding department heads that lead these divisions. Look at the length of tenure of the members of this extraordinary staff. Look at the exceptional service that's provided to our residents by our police, fire, recreation, planning and zoning, clerk's office, finance, HR, engineering and emergency management, IT, public service and public works, purchasing and United Services departments. And finally, look at the way this community looks and feels and the quality of all of our lifestyles. And you can clearly see what a well thought out and carefully implemented vision our city manager has. And so I'm pleased to give the highest possible rating to my friend, our city manager, Ron Ferris, and to make a motion requesting our city attorney and our city manager to negotiate an extension of our city manager's contract and bring this contract back to our council for our consideration and approval. And I'd like a second.
Well, Matthew, I have that written down myself, that his contract is supposed to end a year from now, and it would behoove us to make sure something is in motion to keep Mr. Ferris here and extend the contract. I do applaud everything that Matthew said. I do agree. I know that when I'm out there giving statistics about our city and people learn about our city, I am always complimented on people having to deal with the city and how wonderful it, not wonderful, but that's too strong a term, how well it is to deal with the city and the information that is shared. And this is a family. You've heard me say that countless times. Mr. Ferris is the gatekeeper. However, he has surrounded himself with people that do just as good as job as he does, or maybe even better, because everything I hear about our city is positive. And when you harken back to our approval rating of 94%, and I just don't know what we can do for that other 6%, but it is due to our our city manager and our exemplary staff. And it would behoove us to make sure that Mr. Ferris and the staff that we have here that have been tenured here for a long time remain here and keep the city on the trajectory that it is now. They are thoughtful in what they do. They are thoughtful in what they bring to us. You can see other agencies where they have a high turnover of staff and you wonder, what are they not getting right? I really do believe that the city of Palm Beach Gardens is doing the right thing. I know that, we've had a lot of development that has come forth over the last couple of years, and would we like to not have to develop? Absolutely. Would it be beneficial to the city? Probably not, because then all of the services that we provide would have to be paid for with higher taxes by our taxpayers. So I do see the slow growth of what has happened in the city, harken back again to the vision from our forefathers who 60 years ago thought this was going to be a city of 50,000 people in 8 years. Fast forward 60 years and we're 56,000 or 54,000, depending on who you talk to. So I think we've done it smartly, and we've done it smartly because we have a management team in place that really looks to keep our city safe, well-funded. And when you think of our city manager living in the city, our assistant city manager who is a city resident, our finance director who's a city resident, as I go back and have said many times, they're not just spending taxpayer dollars, they're spending their own dollars because they are taxpayers also. So that is a long-winded way of saying I believe we have an excellent city manager and excellent staff. I'd like to see that staff stay in place, and I do think the city manager and the attorney should get together and extend the contract. So there's my evaluation.
Thank you. Well, can I finish? Can I start before you finish? So anyway, our job is to hire the manager and the attorney. Those are the only two people in the city that we hire. I'm a small business owner. I have a lot of people that have worked with us for a long time, and that's really what a good organization does, is have continuity with a shared vision. So all of you sitting out there have the same vision because you all believe in your leader and your manager that kind of sets the boundaries of what you should be doing, and then trust you to do the right thing, and that's creating a great organization, and that's not always easy to develop. So you've done an excellent job over the years, making sure that everyone shares in the common goal, giving your talented leaders that you surround yourself with the flexibility to do what they should do, which is make this organization as good as it can be. So that doesn't happen by itself. It only happens by having strong leadership and the proper vision. So, when you look at the big picture of what we do, where we live, the type of organization we have, the budgeting process, and all the leadership that you've created around you, you've done an excellent job. And I thank you for that, because, at the beginning when I first met you, just like Carl said, you don't know people that well. I always said I wanted to be friendly with people. I didn't want to be friends with people, because you never know when you cross that line. But we've developed a really good, strong relationship. We meet weekly. We talk more often than that, which is very important. So with that, I'm happy to say that, I'm proud of what you've done, and I look forward to continuing working with you to make the city as good as it can be. Yes, your contract is up in a year. I'd advise each of us to sit down with the city manager one-on-one to discuss what you think he should do, get his wishes going forward. And then, of course, we can also sit with the city attorney and ask him to, devise a plan. But ultimately, remember, we are the ones that hire the manager and the attorney. And but fortunately, we have great people that we're working with that, do an excellent job. So that's my assessment. Any other comments about the city manager? So items of resident interest and board. Do we want to do that now? Yeah, okay. Would you like to make the motion again, please, Matthew?
Sure. Let me make sure I say it in specific terms. I already closed my notebook. Oh, go ahead.
You've already motioned it, let's just second and vote it.
What?
Then let's vote.
Yeah, let's
You don't
vote.
need to re-motion.
Oh, yeah, let's vote.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
4-0, thank you. Lastly, items of resident interest, board committee reports. Do you guys have anything specific that you want to bring up? That was such a wonderful month. I know Maria's got a long list like usual.
I was hoping that Ken would show us the other 15 slides.
No.
While you guys are searching, let me get this out. Where's Todd? Is he still here? Oh. Stand up, Todd. You did such a great job. All right, so nobody's here. So what's important for you guys to know is that Todd and I gave a presentation to Osprey on their right turn lane. Todd, you did a great job. I got more feedback. You and I just went out there on a Sunday and we did what we did. Todd had a PowerPoint presentation for the community. They did like a soft vote, 30 people in the room, and pretty much 90% lifted their hand that they would vote for the lane. So they're going to pay for the lane. It won't come out of the community, out of the citizens. It'll be basically assessed to their community over 15 years-ish, whatever they vote on. So that's where we're at with Osprey Isle. Probably going to be a vote to them. And then it'll come, and then we do our diligence on our end. But it can, with this, I don't know if it's an ordinance or a resolution, we have the right to mandate that that lane go in without, whether they voted yes or no. So they started the fire with the amount of traffic that's going to be on North Lake Boulevard. I'm confident they're all going to vote yes, which would be really good, but if in the event they vote no, we might want to really take a hard look just for traffic safety, and hopefully it won't go that way, but that's something that you guys needed to know. So thanks. Even though I didn't want to say it.
Maria, do you have anything you'd like to? Give me your highlights.
Highlights. Okay, well, it was here's my highlights. It was actually a short month since I took my first vacation in 3 years and left the country. Yay. But there were some interesting things. We did have the Palm Beach County League of Cities annual installation luncheon, and I have been reinstalled as a large city board member. Happy to do that. The Smart and Connected Regions Task Force had their final meeting to put together the deliverables for the grant that we received from FDOT that was facilitated by the City of Palm Beach Gardens, and hats off to the City of Palm Beach Gardens for doing that and doing it so quickly. I was a presenter at the Women's Chamber Foundation Annual Scholarship Luncheon. Did a Place of Hope site visit today. My gosh, they're wonderful. Groundbreaking with Mark at Temple Beth David, and a shout out to Mark and the Young Singers of the Palm Beaches. We had a wonderful Memorial Day celebration. Many of our staff was there. Thank you for being there. Steve Stepp and I were profiled by Leadership Palm Beach County this month. Carl's moaning and groaning over here. Palm Beach North Economic Development Meeting along with Mark. And Gardens Cup Spirit Tea. The Gardens Cup to benefit the Spirit team was last weekend. Thank you, Mark, for your sponsorship. Carl, did you play? You weren't there.
He was there.
What are you talking about when I
He,
busted your
He
chop.
hit up behind me on one of them.
I'm busting you.
iron almost landed it right next to the pin.
So it was fun to be there and support our city as they continue with their spirit team. I do want to give a big shout out to Natalie for the mobility presentation. I know that was we had 2 presentations this week, one for local businesses and one for residents. Mark was there, Rochelle was there. And it's a new direction, a new beginning, and I think it's exciting for the city, especially because it's important. We talk about traffic, and we talk about finding ways to take people off the roads, and by having a mobility fee versus an impact fee, it's still going to be paid for by the developers, but it's the opportunity for the monies to stay here in the city, so I think that's wonderful. And there's more stuff, but I'm just going to stop.
Mark, I didn't do mine. Let me just very quickly. Some of the events that I attended during the last month include meeting with our traffic consultant, city manager, and director of P&Z to discuss mobility in the gardens. Attended the grand opening of the Realtors Association office, attended American Pro-Israel PAC dinner, attended Palm Beach North Chamber of Commerce breakfast honoring our educators in Palm Beach County, attended the Palm Beach North Leadership Awards dinner, attended a BizPac luncheon, and a PJ Quarter luncheon. I'm done.
Thanks. Highlights, Riverside graduation. That was fun. Little kids graduating. Top Soccer closing was always fun to see the kids that don't have what we have, to see the smiles on their faces. Always a lot of fun. League of Cities Install Gala. Bioscience Overlay Advisory Board. I did attend that. That was the first time that committee met since 2016. There was actually some discussion as to why the board is even there. But there was no further discussion about that. So that was it's one of those things that I've been appointed to, and I finally went to one of those events. The golf course was great. Thank you to the staff for putting that together, among other things. So that's all I've got there. Lastly, city manager report. Do you have a report? City attorney, you have a report.
Very, very briefly, I just wanted to let you all know that I've told you all individually, but just for public disclosure, we had the attorney's fees fight over the Sears lawsuit. They had originally petitioned and sued the city for $2.4 million. That was the amended petition was for $2.4 million in attorney's fees. And we were able to successfully resolve that lawsuit after mediation last month, and it was resolved for $625,000, which, based upon the comments from our expert's opinion and the opinion of all of the attorneys involved on behalf of the city, of which there were 4, we felt that it was a very good choice. It gave the city certainty and finality. It was likely to be appealed if we did prevail, which I believe we would have prevailed at the hearing, which meant we would have gotten probably some kind of attorney's fee award around $300,000 to $350,000 range. It would have been appealed, and the appeal would have ended up costing us the difference. So what this did is it eliminated that risk, eliminated the appeal, and eliminated those additional expenses and brought it to closure.
Well, that's good news. Thank you. And that's one last thing that's on our list of things to wait for. Yeah, we should have brought this up earlier, saving the date, June 29th, Saturday night, would be the opening of our park. So I'm looking forward to being there, and if anybody's listening, that maybe they should come. Last thing, thank God we didn't have another ordinance on this agenda, because we tried to go quick, and yet there's no way. It's 11:15, so we tried. That's my biggest complaint, Mr. City Manager, to shorten our agendas. But other than that, any last comments? All right, adjourned. Thank you.